Evening and welcome back to the October 24th, 2024 Prince George's County Board of Education meeting. I am Lolita E. Walker, Chair of the Prince George's County Board of Education. The Chair reminds everyone to ensure that their wireless communication devices are turned off. To hear the meeting interpreted live in Spanish, a call-in line has been established for the community. The number to call is 508-924-5155. Again, that's 508-924-5155. Board Member Frazier, please make the announcement in Spanish.
Muy buenas noches. Se ha establecido una línea telefónica para que la comunidad pueda llamar y tenga acceso a interpretación en español en vivo. El número a llamar es el 508-924-5155. Repito, el número a llamar es el 508-924-5155.
And we'll stand for the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't know where it is. Again, apologies for starting a little bit late tonight. We will continue and try to make up with time. Roll call. Ms. Woodridge, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Adams Stafford,
Present.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Present.
Mr. Briggs,
Present.
Mrs. Frazier,
Present.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Jungo,
Present.
Dr. Z. Miller,
Present.
Ms. Walker.
Present. Thank you so much. A quorum is present. If there are no objections, the October 24th, 2024 meeting agenda will be adopted, moving agenda item 12.1, public comment, after agenda item 10.1, report of the chair. There are no objections. We will move forward. The October 24th, 2024 Prince George's County Board of Education meeting agenda is adopted as it is amended. Are there any corrections to the September 26, 2024 board business meeting minutes, October 17th, 2024 work session minutes? Hearing none, these minutes are approved. We will now move to our PGCPS Spotlight. The Chair recognizes Superintendent House for the PGCPS Spotlight, Phase 2 of the P3 Public-Private Partnership School Development.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We, of course, are really excited about the number of schools that we've built through this unique partnership, a unique and innovative approach to school construction, not only for this county, but across the nation. This is something that we should be extremely proud of, and I'd like to turn your attention to the screen for a brief moment to really just spotlight and highlight some of the newest campuses that we have opened up here in PGCPS.
The new Margaret Brent Elementary School, along with the additional 7 new schools that will be built as a part of Phase 2, represent a tremendous investment and collective commitment to our children's future.
With the breaking of ground for a new elementary school in New Carrollton, Prince George's County began Phase 2 of its plan to teach the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, with the help of the 3 P's, the public-private partnerships that are building schools on an accelerated schedule.
P3 is public-private partnership, and it's a model that's becoming increasingly popular, where the private side will design, build, then maintain and fully finance a project for some long period of time, and then hand it back to the government owner at the end of the project.
With 6 P3 schools already completed, all of the middle schools, and all architecturally and environmentally stunning, Phase 2 is now off and running.
This school, similar to Ellen Ochoa, will be a net zero school. We'll have solar arrays, will be powered by geothermal energy to ensure that we are being a good and conscientious neighbor You know what? We couldn't have chosen a better day to be here at the site of the old Margaret Brent Elementary. This, of course, is the first of 8 facilities that will be erected from the ground. To have this groundbreaking here, to have individuals that have a personal history around the old Margaret Brent here to watch the first of several in this Blueprint Phase 2 opportunity. And as we know, this was not just something that PGCPS moved forward on its own, from the IAC to the county council, and of course our Board of Education.
For students watching their new schools rise and alumni who remember the schools they're replacing, there is both nostalgia and excitement for what's to come.
I was here when they raised the old Margaret Brent building. It was very sad, but to see this is very surreal, and it's pretty cool to see a new Margaret Brent going up. And maybe, no doubt, there'll be teachers there that will have the impact on their students like I had on me.
Thank you to everyone who made this possible. I can't wait to see this school once it's finished.
Putting a shovel in the ground and ensuring that our kids have the opportunity to walk into facilities that really do speak to what we believe about their dignity and about their potential is the most important thing that we do.
Thank you so much. Super exciting. At this time, I am so excited to acknowledge our unsung partner. Now, I know y'all didn't know, you probably did, but we have an Olympian in our midst, and I am so excited to have met him. Before I call him up, I want to take this opportunity to present our unsung partner tonight. Mr. Jamal Harvey is from Oxon Hill, Maryland. He is a 2020 graduate from Potomac High School. Jamal continues to train with his original trainer today, but before we get into all of that, I want you all to go to the next slide, because this is the Olympian. When I say Olympian, I mean real Olympian is right here. So let's first of all give ourselves a hand, because we're so excited at what he is doing inside of not only our county, but what he is doing to represent the USA. And when you hear his story, it is just so amazing. I don't want to embarrass him at all, but that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I do. So I happened to be at a forum that the Legislative District 26 had in the Great District 8, and I was introduced to Mr. Harvey. So I said, you know what, we have got to give him an Unsung Partner Award. If we can move forward. Again, Jamal is from Oxon Hill, Maryland. He graduated from our very own Potomac High School in 2020, and he continues to train with his trainer from right here. You can progress. He began boxing at 13 years old. I'm going to say that again. He began boxing at 13 years old, and he made his world championship debut in 2021 at 18 years old. He won a gold medal at 18 years old, and this is the history maker right here. I want y'all to remember Prince George's County, and then remember Jamal. A first for the U.S. men in 14 years. Y'all hear that part? Okay, good. He's a natural-born competitor. He's won and placed numerous events, and the 2024 Paris Olympic Games marked his first Olympic appearance of his career. He is representing the U.S. right here from Prince George's County. He credits his parents with supporting his boxing journey. His mother and sister are with him today. I'm so excited about that. And so, Mr. Jamal and family, come on up. We are so very proud of you. We are presenting you with a certificate of recognition. It says, certificate of recognition is presented to Jamal Harvey as an unsung partner. You see this medal right here? I know it's good, right? Okay. It says, in acknowledgement of your remarkable accomplishments and hard work, we commend you for your excellence. Your accolades serve as an inspiration to the students and the broader community of Prince George's County Public Schools. Thank you for being a positive influence and for your contributions that uplift those around you. And it's signed by myself on this date, but it also has each and every one of our board members who are represented here today because we are happy to have you. We want to thank you as one of his parents for just being amazing. You as his sister, because we know you had to help support as well. And we are presenting him with our very own gold medal. It says Prince George's County Board of Education. It says, we have a cup here that says individually leading to become your collective best. And there's a bag, but this is really heavy, so I'm giving this to you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And if you wanted to, a superintendent, if you wanted to say something, then we'll give it to.
Sure.
I can put it down.
Young brother, Mr. Harvey, we're extremely proud of you. You represent a much bigger platform than you may understand. There are a lot of folks, young and old, that are watching you, learning from you, and not just Prince George's County, but if you think about it from the magnitude of America and what that means. So we're super proud of you, and congratulations.
Thank you. I just want to thank y'all for having me, and I really truly appreciate the award. It make me feel good that all my hard work paid off. Just like I said, I'm just like any other child or any other person in this room. I put my mind to something, worked hard, stayed dedicated, took some L's, just stayed focused, and I achieved my dream.
All right, we're going to grab some pictures. Yes, we're going to get them. Yes. Okay. Oh, you, this is, awesome. Thank you. All right, the chair recognizes Board Member Frazier to present another shout out. It's a community shout out for District 8.
Buenas noches a todos. Felicidades al Distrito 8 y a los líderes latinos que vamos a celebrar en esta noche. Congratulations to our district leaders for District 8 and all in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. We are recognizing 4 distinct Latino leaders that are in our schools, and I'm going to take a moment to share a little bit about each of them. As I call them up, please come up, and you please stay as I call the rest, and then we're going to celebrate, take a couple of pictures. So here we go. Lo primero que vamos a hacer esta noche es que vamos a presentar a cada uno de los líderes del Distrito 8 con un certificado, un regalo de lo que para reconocer su liderazgo. Cuando llame sus nombres, por favor vengan al frente, quédense aquí hasta que termine con los 4 para tomar una foto. The first leader is Kimberly Matamor Guillén. Kimberly is a senior at Potomac High School. She has consistently demonstrated her leadership and passion for her Hispanic heritage. In 2023, she was highlighted in Telemundo News and showcased in the school's Hispanic Heritage Month activities. Her leadership in organizing these events included coordinating a special lunch for the teachers, and she earned the recognition and prize certificate for her efforts. Building on last year's success, Kimberly took on a more involved role in 2024. This year, she contributed creative ideas for the Hispanic Heritage Month. She held on, thank you. She held, I'm over here now. Thank you. Now that I have the microphone, I can come over here near the students. And here are the certificates, if you can help me with that. Thank you so much. Building on last year's success, Kimberly took on a more involved role in 2024. This year, she contributed creative ideas to the Hispanic Heritage Month Gala held on October 11th. In addition to her planning contributions, she also helped with the decorations and proudly participated on stage with her Spanish 3 class. As a senior, Kimberly feels very excited and grateful for the opportunity to take part in such a meaningful tradition. She expressed her appreciation for Spanish teacher Mr. Omar Cruz for allowing her to be part of the celebrations and for supporting her in representing their shared culture abroad. Thank you, Kimberly. Our next District 8 leader is Brian Tobias Polanco. Brian Tobias Polanco is a 10th grade student at Oxon Hill High School. As class president, Brian is widely respected by his peers for his outgoing and engaging personality. His genuine interest in connecting with people and being actively involved in the school community has earned him the admiration and trust of everyone. Brian's commitment to helping others stems from his personal experience as a Latino student facing language barriers that made it difficult for him and his family to access the support they needed. This experience fueled his desire to be a source of help for others. Brian's passion for service shines through in small acts of kindness he performs every day. These efforts have not gone unnoticed, and his peers are eager to support his initiatives, which he further solidifies his leadership role within the school. His dedication to making a positive impact goes beyond high school, as Brian is focused on future in higher education. He is determined to attend Penn State University, where he plans to major in political science. His long-term goal is to pursue a career in political service with aspirations as one day reaching the White House. Our third leader is Sergio Argueta Rodriguez. Sergio Argueta Rodriguez, a senior at Crossland High School, has displayed exceptional dedication, resilience, and passion across all aspects of his high school journey, leaving a lasting impact on the school community. Academically, Sergio has been a consistent honor roll student throughout his high school career, while excelling in several advanced placement courses, including AP Language, AP Literature, AP Calculus. His strong academic performance reflects his unwavering work ethic, his intellectual curiosity, and ability to thrive in challenging environments. Whether in the classroom or participating in discussions, Sergio approaches his studies with determination and enthusiasm, contributing valuable insights and fostering a positive learning environment. In addition to his academic achievements, Sergio is a highly respected peer leader. He has taken on an active role in mentoring younger students, offering guidance and support, particularly to those for those facing challenges in adjusting to high school life. His involvement in leadership has not only enhanced his personal growth, but also inspired others to take the initiative and strive for success. Outside of academics and leadership, Sergio has made a significant mark in the school's culinary arts program. His creativity in the kitchen and leadership during school events and competitions have earned him recognition as a skilled chef. His ability to work collaboratively, stay composed under pressure, and deliver impressive culinary results speaks about his diverse talents. In conclusion, Sergio Argueta Rodriguez exemplifies leadership, academic success, and a deep passion for culinary arts. As an outstanding Latino student leader, his ability to excel in all areas of his high school experience is a testament to his hard work and talent. Congratulations again. Get everybody. And last but not least is Carelis Quiñones, a senior at Friendly High School. She's an outstanding honor roll student who exemplifies both academic excellence and leadership. Currently, she's enrolled in dual enrollment courses at Prince George's Community College. She's also taking advanced placement courses in psychology, language, and culture, and reflecting her commitment to challenging herself academically does that every day. Beyond the classroom, Carelis is active in athletics. She played in the varsity volleyball team for 1 year and has been dedicated member of the Friendly High School swim team for the past 3 years. Her leadership extends to extracurricular activities where she serves as the president of the National Honor Society and previously held the position of treasurer for the Student Government Association. In addition, for her academics and leadership roles, Carelis works as a lifeguard and a swim instructor aide, balancing her work with strong commitment to community service. She serves as a translator for her church and contributes to the Crafts Project, where she creates bracelets and cards for terminally ill children. Looking ahead, Carelis plans to attend either George Mason University or the University of Maryland to pursue a major in criminal justice, driven by her passion for making a difference in her community. Estoy súper orgullosa de ustedes. Sigan hacia adelante y no dejen que nadie les quite las ganas de ser líderes, porque ya lo son. Gracias. Me gustaría que los padres puedan venir acá para tomar una foto con nosotros. Ustedes tienen que estar muy orgullosos de sus niños. Lo que han hecho ellos es algo muy importante y debemos enseñar a todos lo orgullosos que estamos. Vengan. Voy a parar aquí.
Okay, let's do the one with the family first. Sounds good. You want us to get behind you?
So here's what we'll do. Come a little bit in, right? Yeah. You're fine, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring mom out. There we go. Right. So here is Grace, right? Yeah. Right there. No.
Oh, that's your picture? Oh, no. Oh,
This is your picture.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay? This is, all right. It's always much of your soul. All right. So everybody look this way. On three. 1, 2, 3. Nice, okay? Everybody smile this time, all right? Huh? 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, and 3. All right? I just want the students there. Three, two, one. 3, 2, 1. Got it. Just the students, please. Actually, move this. Perfect. Everybody look at me. Smile on 3, all right? 1, 2, and 3. One more. 1, 2, and 3. Got it.
Take their signs, right?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Really nice.
Stay right there, everybody.
Bye.
Excellent, congratulations. Excellent, excellent, congratulations. This is such a big deal. We're so proud of you. Thank you, Board Member Frazier. The Chair would like to congratulate Board Member Boozer Strother for becoming a new board member of MABE. Your connections to the Blueprint, climate change, and electric buses continue to benefit the families of Prince George's County. Thank you so much. The Chair also acknowledges the following board members who hosted special events in their districts. Board Member Harris, who is not here tonight, but alongside PGCPS administration, celebrated Men Make a Difference, where they welcomed over 750 community members and recognized many of the male figures who daily make a difference in the lives of Prince George's County scholars and their communities. Student member of the board, Jongo, alongside with the Student Advisory Council, hosted a successful Hispanic Heritage event that brought together many attendees, including students, staff, and representatives from across the district. The event highlighted the invaluable contributions of the Hispanic community and celebrated their cultural impact within our schools. Thank you so much. Lastly, Board Member Adam Stafford and student member of the board, Jongo, successfully hosted the 4th Annual Virtual College Application Symposium. We know many of you attended. This yearly event helps students and their families navigate the entire journey from academic preparation to the college application process, ensuring they are connected with up-to-date essential tools for success. Thank you so much. We want to thank our board members for their dedication to the community, and you have not seen the last of us. Make sure if you don't know your board member that you connect in all of the ways. The Chair recognizes the board members who attended MABE to share no more than 2.5 minutes, takeaways from their professional development that they received at MABE. We will go in the order of Board Member Boozer Strother, then Briggs, then Jackson, then Miller, and then myself. Thank you so much. Board Member Boozer Strother,
All right,
whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. At the MABE conference, we had a really special session called Using Blueprint Stories to Ignite Curiosity and Share Impact, and that was actually hosted by PGCPS's own Dr. David Reese, who presented with board members from all over the state about how to make deeper connections through storytelling and to build those skills and to have the confidence to share a little more intimately about how the Blueprint for Maryland's Future is impacting students in their district. We also heard from Sarah Ross, who's a national advocate on the Inflation Reduction Act and how public school systems can receive rebates from the federal government for climate action through electric buses, geothermal, solar panels, and all the districts of Maryland, the board members to understand how to track those projects and to ensure that eventually those dollars come back to their districts. So those are two highlights from my experience at MABE.
Thank you so much. Board Member Briggs.
Thank you so much, Chair Walker. I'm going to make it really quick, but just want to say that the conference and the opportunities that we have to go to places like MABE's annual conference are always so informative. One of the things that really sparked my curiosity and piqued my interest was just the focus on the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. We all know that that's a huge bill that was passed in 2021 that focuses on a number of different education priorities that we need to advance, including increasing teacher salaries. So one of the big goals is by, I believe, 2026, the goal is that every county in the state will be at a $60,000 base salary for teachers. And so that's gonna, I think as taxpayers and all the people that are in this room, how that impacts you is we have to pay our teachers more, which means that there's going to be significant considerations around how we use our funding, and really need your voice to make sure that we're championing those ideas. I also want to just say that there's all of the other pieces around climate resilience and really, making sure that we're both meeting the expectations of the Blueprint, but also I think our county's goals around the Climate Action Plan. And so one of those pieces was really looking into this kind of science and the nuances of having, boilers. I don't know if you know anything about, schools, but like a lot of schools use steam boilers, which is like a really antiquated way of kind of running schools. And so we're moving away from steam power and we're moving to kind of other more regenerative and also climate resilient approaches. And so this is really one of the focuses of the conference that I attended.
Thank you so much. Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. I'll be brief as well. Interfacing with the other, 23 counties in Maryland at MABE was very eye-opening. We talked about, equity issues and also how every county is having their fair share of transportation issues. But I think one of the things that was very illuminating to me is that Prince George's County, has complex demographic challenges that are unique to our county, and the way we manage these challenges is superb. And I have more of an appreciation. I always appreciated our group of leaders and our administrators, but I have so much more appreciation for you guys and the job that y'all do, because when I was listening, and I'm not into who had the worst Olympics, but when I was listening to the issues of some of the other counties, I was like, what? Like, that's nothing compared to what we deal with on a regular basis. So I just wanted to salute the administration. You guys are doing a fine job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Miller?
Thank you. I as well, I am a learner by trade, and so I always like to go to opportunities where I can learn more. And one of the challenges with going to conferences is there's so many sessions that you have to attend, and they're concurrent, and so there's several things that you want to go at the same time, so it was hard to figure out what session to go to. The one that struck out with me was, it was called Show Up and Show Out, Moving the Mark on Attendance. We have made strides and beginning to make strides with our attendance, but I wanted to see, are there some other practices in place that we could consider? They talked about the impact of chronic attendance, which we're all aware of, leading to graduation rates declining. So with that being said, what it really spoke to was really having different tiers, which we know, different tiers of prevention, early intervention, then intense intervention. So I was looking at the areas of intense intervention, and it was great to know that one of the best practices is with community schools. So with our community schools, we are making a step forward in terms of really addressing the whole child and looking at what the underlying issues are with attendance. But one of the things that they mentioned that we probably would bring for us to consider, which maybe is already happening, is asset mapping, right? So they said, looking at the assets that you have in the community, and I know that they do this already, and organize in and out school resources so that they can work in tandem instead of looking at them in isolation. And I know many times when I hear the presentations about our community schools, I do hear them talk about, we reached out to the health department, we reached out, so there are things that we were doing. So it was great to hear that. They talk about every community having wisdom, wealth, and will, but we need to know which resources would be the best resources to meet the needs of the individual students or root cause of attendance. For us as board members, what it left me to consider was for us to continuously look at our policy, which we do, our policy, and see, is our policy creating barriers? As a system, what practices are in place or getting in the way? And then, of course, funding is always some place that we need to do. Do we have the funding in order to implement the best practices?
Thank you so much. And I will share from my perspective this MABE, and in case you all don't know what MABE is the acronym for our Maryland Association of Boards of Education. So this is a conference that we went to in which you can see this is new for our Board of Education, but what we are is committed to reporting back to you some key takeaways when we do attend personal development. And so you'll start to see that as we go to conferences so we can come back and share. So as I close this out for my takeaways from MABE is that I, as the chair of the Board of Education, had a dedicated opportunity to sit with other chairs and superintendents who were there as well. And we got to talk about board leadership, the challenges and the wins that were happening inside of Maryland, specifically inside of Prince George's County when it comes to me. And I think the great news, that which I heard from some other colleagues, is that what we find out is that we are doing pretty well. I must say. Despite all of the challenges that we have, and we do have challenges, that when we listen to what's happening in other counties, I'm so proud to say I'm from Prince George's County. The two takeaways I want to share with you all for high level is the new legislative leadership. So there is new legislative leadership in MDSE. And so the Maryland State Department of Education has new legislative leadership, and we plan as a Board of Education to strategically engage them as we go throughout this legislative season, which is coming up, which is 90 days where our legislators go in and really affect change. And we as the Board of Education make sure we partner with them for so many different educational bills, and we want to make sure we do that to further our PGC Board of Education theme of Educate, Advocate, Act together. And then another thing I took away was the real need to have a superintendent and board relationship, which we continue to build every single day. Strengthening these relationships really remain a priority for us. So whether it's conference attendance or one-on-one meeting opportunities that we have on a weekly basis, just making sure we keep our open communication collaboratively with our superintendent. And we go to him with all types of challenges, y'all. What we hear from you all in our community, we are at his door knocking, saying what is happening here. So we want to just continue to advocate. So I just want to thank you, board members, for being able to report out, and we will continue to do that for our public so you know what we're getting trained on as well. All right. Next, we're moving to a moment of silence. So at this time, I would like to call for a moment of silence as we honor the memory of the following PGCPS staff, family, and community members. Colecia Gray, Building Supervisor of Marlton Elementary School. Ada Y. Correas, Teacher, Suitland Elementary School. Thank you so much. The board informs the public of the following upcoming meetings. November 4th, 2024, Board Audit Committee meeting is at 6:00 p.m. November 6th, Parent and Community Advisory Council. November 7th, Superintendent's Annual Evaluation. November 11th, Academic Achievement Committee meeting. November 12th, Policy and Governance Committee meeting. November 13th, Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting. November 14th, Business meeting. Closed session begins at 5:30, open session begins at 7:00. And November 14th, we do have a business meeting, again, I just said 7:00 p.m. Please continue to check board docs, and you can go there through pgcps.org. We are going to move to public comment. The chair will recognize our public commenters. One second, thank you so much. The chair recognizes the registered speakers for their public comment. We have 15 tonight. The board will recognize your comments but will not address them directly. Registered speakers have 3 minutes to make their presentations and may not relinquish any part of their speaking time. We will have a timer, and when it goes off, I will simply say thank you. You will be warned once if you choose to use profanity or derogatory terms. If you continue, your comment will be muted and you will be removed from the meeting. Speakers are encouraged to use titles rather than names, for example, chair, board member, superintendent, principal, etc. Again, we have 15 confirmed live public commenters tonight, and we also received 3 written comments and 1 pre-recorded video, which will be uploaded to board docs. Our first speaker is Valdemar Mendiez, student, Progressive Maryland, School Solar System, Power of Our Schools campaign. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair Lolita Walker, Senora Lassay Frazier, and members of the school board. My name is Valdemar Mendiez. I'm a resident of South Lawn Neighborhood, District 8 of Prince George's County, retired U.S. Army veteran and volunteer member of Progressive Maryland. Today I stand before you to ask for your support in our Power Our Schools campaign in Oxon Hill and Fort Washington. We are dedicated to working with District 8 school board members as well as the PGCPS board members to ensure that this project receives its full support. I have spoken with a large number of my neighbors, and they all agree that solar panels are very important to reduce our school's spending over the increasing utility costs, namely electricity and gas, and directing those saved monies for education, textbooks, better teacher-to-student ratio, security, transportation, potential after-school programs, etc. We at Progressive Maryland understand that PGCPS has a very limited financial resource pool and may not be able to redirect some funding to support our solar campaign, if at all. We also are aware that most, if not all, educational facilities have multiple roles outside of education to support the local, state, and national efforts, such as voting areas, educational or emergency consolidation areas, as well as others. Are you board members aware that there are a lot of unspent federal agency monies that are focused on those types of missions that are rarely, if ever, touched by our school systems? There are a dozen federal agencies who can assist on the improvement of our local emergency centers, and that's all just on one of our facilities' missions. I would not be surprised if there is a state and agencies and organizations who have similar mission requirements to help improve local emergency centers, as well as other missions directed to our education facilities. The point is to be proactive versus reactive in a bad situation, i.e. the initial COVID-19 experience. Think of it, just on the emergency center aspect. A severe cold front hits and shuts down the local power system, just like it did in Texas with that power outage in February 2021. To prevent local citizens from freezing to death, they could head to their nearby schools that has an installed solar and energy storage system to keep warm versus freezing to death. The same goes in a hot weather situation, as well as in the incremental severe weather situations from the ever-increasing threat of global warming, which we are very happy to hear that you guys are working with, say, the EPA, trying to get some more solar, or some more funding for like green energies and stuff like that to help support our schools, which we fully encourage, and we stand behind you on that. Thank you very much. When utilizing these monies, please ensure the contracting solar installing companies do not manipulate or exploit the actual system's costs, lack of school board knowledge on solar systems, and the use of less than optimal equipment and installation increase their revenues. Do not let them get over on us as the contracted government's projected to. Okay. Thank you for your time. My name is Valdemar Mendias, and
Thank you
have
so
a great
much, Mr. Mendias. Thank you. We'll move to Eric Clark, Progressive Maryland, solar panels for District 8. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Chairwoman Walker and members of the school board. My name is Eric Clark, and I've been a resident of District 9 for over 20 years. I stand as member of Progressive Maryland, knowing that these solar panels will be transformative in District 8 schools. The experience of Nigel, my son, a graduate of class 2014, a victim of autism, asthma, bullying, and poor air quality due to the replacement of an HVAC system at Gwynn Park High School. What was his learning environment like? Imagine a learning environment free from the threats of toxic metal like mercury, lead, nitrogen oxide, bad air quality. A large solar project can create a healthy environment, reduce the risk of asthma, heart disease, lung cancer, and more. The solar panel project for District 8 will bring transformative solution to this county, bring clean, substantial energy, and other schools, reduce our carbon footprint. Ownership of the solar panels is a must. The ownership will also show the third-party developers that our school will not be used as a cash cow for power rate increases. Let's, at this time, look at the benefits of solar panels. Low operation costs, low maintenance, panel will maximize energy savings, and 2022, our school system energy bill was $16 billion. The money and savings can be used for other things like teachers' salary, school supplies, and after school. Goodwill and positive press coverage, education component can be used within lesson plans and applied technology skill, science, math, and engineering. Thousands of union and high-paying jobs, boost enrollment, energy autonomy, and independence. Thank you, and I appreciate y'all giving us the time to talk to y'all.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll move to Ms. Sharon Lay, Progressive Maryland Solar Panels. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chair and board members and all of the county constituents. I am coming as a member of Progressive Maryland, standing with the same issue of the solar panels, and I am just here to support the Power of Our Schools campaign in Oxon Hill and Fort Washington, and I'm dedicated to working with our District 8 school board member and the whole board towards this project. Let's see. I feel that our schools in Southern Prince George's counties are often not prioritized, and this is just an opportunity I want to take to remind you all that South County has the same needs as other parts of the county, and we're looking to partner with our district and the school board or whomever can work with us to get solar panels in the southern county, Oxon Hill and Fort Washington area. So we are glad to be a part of this opportunity to share with you all, and thank you for your time and for listening to our concerns.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Birth. Monique, please correct my pronunciation if I did not pronounce that correctly, from Progressive Maryland Solar Panel School System.
Right. Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Board chair and members of the school board. My name is Bert Maniki. Originally from Cameroon, but I'm a U.S. citizen now. And I'm a resident of District Prince George. And today I stand before you to ask to support our Power, our school campaign in Oxon Hill, Fort Washington. How about the whole Prince George County? And I'm dedicated to working with the district and school board member, ensuring that this project receives its full support. We need more money for our schools, and solar panel will be the way to transform our school and save that money. This is important. My experience as someone who works in the school system, I see that every day, how the use of solar panel can help us to save a little bit of millions of dollars. How about that? And we can go green. Go green. Yeah, with this in mind, as well as the school district commitment for solar school by 2040, will the representative for District 8 and the rest of the board fulfill our demand to push a solar panel project on Oxon Hill School, apply for the financing opportunities, and allow the community to decide where that money will go. So we really count on the Board of Education to fulfill this project. Thank you for your time, and we hope for good feedback.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll move to Sean Chow, Progressive Maryland Solar Panels. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair Walker.
Good evening.
Good evening, esteemed members of the board. My name is Sean Chow. I am the Fort Washington leader for Progressive Maryland. I am also a Army War veteran. I am also a local business member, but most importantly, I am a parent and proud resident of Prince George's County of Fort Washington. And I have two of my daughters, three previously, that one went over to Sidwell, but two of my daughters are at Prince George's County Schools, and specifically at the new flagship, Colin Powell Academy. By the way, great work to the combined efforts of the Alsobrooks administration and to the members of the board for making that school happen in Fort Washington. So thank you, applause to you. Now, before Colin Powell Academy was made, it was Potomac Landing Elementary School. And for the longest time, that school has had numerous issues in terms of mechanics, equipment, HVAC, raining going through the roof. The problem is that the schools have historically, and rightfully stated, underfunded. But through the efforts of the Alsobrook administration, there has been innovative approaches to fix that. Private partnership program that was mentioned earlier, and also the desire to ensure that we have renewable resources, ability to cut costs, as well as do well for the environment, and also to increase the safety and resiliency of our infrastructure. And that is why I'm here today in front of you, testifying to ask for your support of the Power Our Schools campaign in Oxon Hill in Fort Washington. I truly believe that this is a no-brainer, one that is a positive impact for our communities, that will bring renewable energy, that will reduce the costs, the operating costs, the O&M for all of our schools across the region, which we can then turn right back and help fund in other areas for our schools. We'll be able to provide more funding for our teachers, more funding for the different equipment for our children. I know that Colin Powell Academy is still looking for a playground, I believe. So these are things that can be funded if we make smart, measured approaches to improving our community. And I am confident that the board will make the right decision on this. So thank you all. I yield back my time.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Jana Parker, individual OBAFA report. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Parker, and I'm a resident of District 8, Prince George's County. In relation to the OBAFA report, what I find lacking in the discussion around operations, budget, and physical affairs for Prince George's County is the emphasis on prioritizing on improving the quality of infrastructure in South County schools. As many of you know, our diverse county has many different cultures and people throughout it, with a strong Filipino, Hispanic, and African American community specifically in District 8. All of these students deserve to go to schools that reflect the high standards and quality that our community demands in infrastructure and in name. In regards to the budget, today I stand with the Power Our Schools campaign in Oxon Hill and Fort Washington. I look forward to working with the members of the school board to ensure that this project receives full support so that the schools within our area will have more direct funds going to the schools and not the electrical company. As a graduate of PGCPS from District 8, a former educator within PGCPS, one time for a long time in District 8, and as a parent of two students, one who goes to high school in District 8, I know firsthand how years of delay and lack in prioritizing South County schools in operations, budget, and fiscal affairs affects the buildings our children learn in and affects the quality of their education. As was stated in my last testimony on this issue, while it's nice of North County in District 3 that seems to get all the support on climate issues, South County deserves the same level of support from their board member and from the board member leading the climate change plan. Otherwise, it looks like the same story that has been going on for more than 40 years. North County schools outside of the Beltway, particularly in those incorporated areas, have support and reinforcement in infrastructure, while South County schools with great programs and great students don't get great schools, or, as of April 2022, lack strong, consistent representation on the school board. We have 150 signatures from the community members, students, parents, and faculty of Oxon Hill, and general supporters from the county for our Power Our Schools initiative. To close, all of our school districts' commitment for the solar schools for 2024, will the Board of Education fulfill our demands to push for solar panels and projects in Oxon Hill schools, apply for financing opportunities, and allow the community to decide where this money will go. We greatly appreciate you, and we hope that you can start being equitable in that plan.
Thank you. We will move to Paula Dixon, Progressive Maryland, on special education.
I am not with Progressive Maryland.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. Apologies for that. Welcome.
Hello, Board, Superintendent House. I'm Paula Dixon. I bought a house in Bowie 2 years ago because Whitehall Elementary had a 9 out of 10 rating. I only wish I'd known then that that rating does not apply to students with special needs. I'm raising a child with autism and ADHD who was in kindergarten at Whitehall last year. He did not attend pre-K, which the Whitehall staff knew. Yet week 2 of school, they gave him a written test, marking almost every section incomplete, then used this test to assign him an insane IQ of 84. Look, I was a child prodigy with a documented IQ of 160, and I promise, this child is at least as smart as I ever was. That was the first red flag. We were told that Whitehall would accommodate this brilliant child by giving him toddler toys and teaching him at a slower pace, red flag number 2. You see, like many students with autism, our kiddo reads in whole words rather than letters. But this teaching style is not available in the very limited environment of Whitehall. Understandably, our little boy grew tired of being treated like a simpleton, and he began to elope from the classroom. At the start of January, he began a pattern of calls asking us to pick up our boy hours early from school. At no point were we told that these early dismissals, and there were dozens, were supposed to go on record as half-day suspensions. They did not. When our child eloped into the hall, the staff would physically restrain him, I would say tackle. Eventually, as most people would, he started fighting back, hitting and biting administrators. Whitehall's principal asked the child's father to sit in the classroom for days at a time, where he witnessed the young teacher's ignorance-induced disdain for her special ed students, and the absences and ineptitude of the classroom aides, who I later learned have no education and get paid less than McDonald's fry cooks. Then came the full suspensions, 9 days in 1 month alone, a kindergartner with autism. When he was at school, our boy was pulled from the classroom and put into an office or empty conference room almost every single day, merely observed as his meltdowns grew worse and worse. Because that's what you do with autistic kids, right, Superintendent? After a behavioral plan was put in place, Whitehall started letting our child elope outside of the school itself. By admission of Whitehall's own vice principal, at least twice, our 5-year-old autistic little boy was allowed to cross the road alone. Our child was traumatized by the staff at Whitehall, who have no business working with autistic children. But the real crime is that he was taught nothing in his time there. Oh, and he's now been labeled a behavior problem and has been universally rejected from all the private and non-public schools we were perfectly willing to pay for after your kindergarten. So now our child sits, languishing in the public school system of PG County. And what happens to his enormous potential and that of so many other twice exceptional children is in your hands. Please act accordingly.
Thank you so much. Ms. Shannon Reed, individual form and function, what did it produce? Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. The students of PGCPS are beautiful and capable. For the last 2 years, my project-based final exam titled Be Beautiful supported students in reading more carefully and examining more deeply because their work showed that they need support with process and content. How people approach, engage in, and evaluate their own work is revealed in the work itself. The work shows what people have and what they need. PGCPS's strengths and needs are also evident in its work. The recent presentation about stakeholder engagement and communication highlighted that the process of improvement requires presence, not presentation. Right now, there are 2 or so students in each of my 6 classes who have grade level reading skills. PGCPS's focus misses how this exhausts qualified teachers and overwhelms the multitude of new and unlicensed teachers. The state superintendent's focus on literacy grasps this and says so much about her willingness to deal with the hard parts. The recent presentation also says so much about PGCPS's willingness to deal with the hard parts. It also makes me ask why. What did it produce? Identifying and embodying equity and excellence as a goal while ignoring the reality that the current structures and approaches burdens teachers with too many students who have extraordinary needs, including remarkably poor work habits, is quite telling. When my 68-year-old grandmother moved to the state when I was living when I had my first child at 19, her presence told the story. Each day when I returned home from work, my roommate would excitedly remove the lid from a pot and say, "Shan, look what your gran made." I'd eaten Southern food my whole life. I'd watched my grandmother grow food in a garden in our backyard in an inner city my whole life. Her process allowed me to internalize what good knowledge and good work and good care produce. Many student struggles are the result of canned instruction by inadequately prepared or overworked teachers. Your efforts to reshape the board will go beyond appearances when you use your power to address this. Some things are caught and some things are taught. PGCPS has the opportunity to shape lives. Real care requires showing up to do the hard part. Right now, if I showed up to any of my grandmother's children's houses, each of my aunts would predictably say, "Hey baby," their presence in my life through good and bad says that I am one of their own. How you treat your own tells the most powerful story. How you treat your own when they are vulnerable creates culture, changes lives, and embodies how to be beautiful.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll move to Marjorie Guerra, individual regarding transportation.
Hello, good
Welcome.
evening. Good afternoon. Board chair members and school board, my name is Marjorie Guerra. I am a resident of District 8, Prince George County. Today I stand before you and ask for your support to our Power of Our Schools campaign in Oxon Hill and Fort Washington. I am dedicated to working with District 8 school board members to ensure this project receives full support. We need more money for our schools and for solar panels. Will this be the way to transform our schools and save money? This is important because with this move, we can save money to have more funds for teachers and bus drivers. We have had teachers leave because they felt underpaid and lack of drivers. With more money and funding, we can support them better, which in turn will help our kids. With this in mind, as well as in school district committee and solar panel schools by 2040, will the representative of District 8 and the rest of school board fulfill our demands to push a solar panel project in Oxon Hill schools, apply for the financial opportunities, and allow the community to decide where this money will go? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Aaron Northrop, individual bus issues. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Board of Education members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Erin Northrop, and I'm the parent of a 4th grader who attends Glenarden Woods Elementary School. We live in Mount Rainier, and I'm here tonight to share my concerns with the bus transportation from Mount Rainier to Glenarden Woods. My child rides bus number 182 to Glenarden Woods in the morning. The bus is scheduled to pick up the students at 8:29 a.m. Since the beginning of the school year, the bus has picked the students up on average 45 minutes late, which means they get to school 30 to 45 minutes late for school every day. For my child and for the other students in the class, this means that they miss essential instructional time every day. I've talked to other students and families about this. One student who rides the bus has missed all of their specials, art, music, PE, this year because those classes are at the beginning of the day and they arrive at school late each day. Another student has talked about struggling to keep up with instruction. My child has missed homeroom class, including review of upcoming assignments, due dates, and other classes. At this rate, the students who ride this bus are missing about the equivalent of one full day of school every 2 weeks. I hope the situation would resolve after the first few weeks of school. However, we're now almost to the end of the first quarter of the year, and the students on this bus route continue to be picked up late and delivered to school late every day. I've reached out to PGCPS Transportation, and I understand that there's a bus driver vacancy for this bus route, so one bus driver is covering 2 routes. I've heard from PGCPS Transportation staff that they're working on addressing the situation. However, it's been the same status for 2 months now, and there's no timeline for when the situation will be resolved. For me as a parent, this is a serious concern for my child and for all the other students that ride this bus who are missing essential instructional time every day, and that some are missing entire classes, and that their teachers are having to do their best to adjust their lesson plans so that the students who ride this bus don't fall behind. I hope that you also find this situation to be a serious concern, and what I'm asking is that PGCPS communicate with the parents to acknowledge how the situation will be addressed and when. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move to Carmen Daughtry, Individual Capital Improvements for CHES. Thank you so much, and please correct my pronunciation of your last name.
Yes. Hi, good evening. It's Carmen Daughtry.
Carmen.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it does say that. I'm so sorry. What did I say?
You were close. That's
Okay.
fine. Get it on
Thank
time.
you.
My name is Carmen Daughtry. I'm an Edmonston, Maryland resident and a proud parent most days to a third grader and kindergartner at Capitol Heights Elementary School, a school that stands as a beacon of excellence in our community, as a neighborhood school and a tag center, despite the unacceptable conditions in which our students and wonderful staff are forced to learn and work. We know educational environment has a significant impact on our students' learning and well-being. Unfortunately, CHES has not been modernized to meet the needs of today's learners. We worry greatly that the conditions of this 60-year-old school will undermine and thwart continued academic excellence at our school. To be blunt, the conditions are appalling. We have cracked and busted windows, leaking ceilings, peeling paint, and hallways and bathrooms that are poorly lit. Just in the first week of school this year, the electricity failed, followed by the HVAC system breakdown. Temperatures in some classrooms exceeded 85 degrees, and it was even hotter in the cafeteria and kitchen. This is not just inconvenient, it is very dangerous. And how can we expect students to learn and thrive when they are forced to endure such conditions? I know I would not put up with this at my place of work. Compounding the issue is the fact that the enrollment at CHES is growing, with numbers outpacing projections at nearly every grade. More students mean more pressure on the already crumbling building, and yet CHES has not been prioritized for the renovations, systemic upgrades, or new construction it so desperately needs. I invite you all, Superintendent, the board, to visit to see for yourselves. Our school and community deserves better, so we're calling for immediate systemic upgrades with an urgent focus on the following 4 areas. Immediate HVAC repairs and installation of air filtration. The current system, supposedly upgraded 2 years ago, has been nothing but problematic. Contractors have already noted that the work done during the upgrade appears to be faulty. We want replacement of unsafe windows. Some of the windows in our classrooms are not even made from tempered glass, posing a safety hazard and failing to properly regulate heating and cooling. We ask the immediate replacement of all single-pane windows, as well as the installation of functional blinds to allow for appropriate levels of natural light in the classroom. We want comprehensive bathroom renovations and rodent infestation remediation. Yes, get rid of the mice in the school, please. It's outrageous that our students and teachers regularly encounter mice in the classrooms and in the cafeteria. And I just want to note, these are just a Band-Aid, a stopgap measure to what we're really needing, and that's a new school construction, and we'd like to be added to the Phase 3 of the PG County Public Schools Blueprint Schools program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Carmen. Next, we'll move to Brianna Boswell, Individual, Concerns with the Student Health and Safety, including concerns such as plumbing issues, HVAC, rodent issues, and lack of drinkable water. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Bree Boswell. I'm a proud parent of 2 students at Capitol Heights Elementary School. I'll have one more coming up a few years after that. I'm also a PG County Public School special educator and a former classroom teacher for 8 years in DC and PG. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible staff, dedicated teachers, and wonderful students and families that make Capitol Heights Elementary School such a special place. The quality of instruction and experiences provided at Chess are truly remarkable. I'm a very happy parent. My kids love the school, and as a result, our students are thriving there. I believe we all share a common goal to provide the best possible environment for our children to continue to thrive in. Though the heart of our school is strong, I want to express my concerns regarding the current state of the school's facilities. Students and staff at Chess are unfortunately facing issues with HVAC system and plumbing, often encounter rodents, and do not have drinkable water stations. These are not just maintenance problems, they're urgent matters that impact the health and safety of not only our students, but also our staff. A comfortable learning environment is crucial in order for our students to focus and excel. Without proper heating and cooling or clean air, we risk impacts to students' performance and teacher morale. When educators are forced to work in uncomfortable conditions, it can lead to burnout and decreased job satisfaction. The first week of school this year, as Carmen said, unfortunately the electricity and HVAC went out, and it was during 2 of the hottest days of the summer, and a lot of students got picked up early. Some teachers shared with us they had to take off the next day to take care of their own personal health. Thankfully, the students and staff were able to overcome the challenges in the first week of school and build a strong foundation and relationships for the year. But I'm concerned about the reliability of the heating and the subpar air quality and how it will affect teacher health and attendance and student health and attendance this fall and winter. Plumbing issues have also been chronic this year, with reports of overflowing toilets, distracting smells, and unhygienic sinks that don't stay on long enough to actually wash your hands for those 20 seconds. You push it and it pops right back up, so the kids can't even. My kids are they came out of a pandemic, so they tell me, I can't even wash my hands, Mom. This, paired with the presence of rodents, presents serious health risks for our students as we enter cold and flu season. Access to drinkable water is a basic necessity. Our students deserve to stay hydrated at school. We don't want water bottles spilling everywhere. They're using the little water cooler things right now, I believe. But anyway, after collectively surviving a pandemic and while in the midst of staffing challenges and teacher shortages nationwide, I think it's important that we're vigilant about ensuring that our facilities are clean and hygienic, and schools provide a safe and healthy working and learning environment for students and staff. I want to see immediate action to address these, maybe over that long Christmas break you gave us. Thank you. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Keisha Miller, Capitol Heights Elementary School, PTSA, School Repair Rebuilding. Welcome.
Hi, thank you all to Mr. Superintendent, esteemed members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Kaya Manti Miller. I'm a proud alumna of Prince George's County Schools and now have the honor and privilege to be raising my own children here as a 5th and 2nd grader at Capitol Heights Elementary School. I am here tonight as part of the Chess PTSA to urge you to prioritize some urgent repairs you've been hearing about tonight that I feel really threaten the health and safety of our students and staff. By day, I work in public health, so these issues are of particular concern to me, beyond my basic concerns about hand hygiene, especially as we go into flu season, lack of soap and functioning water taps in the bathroom. But these issues also have me very concerned about Chess's indoor air quality. We have a tremendous amount of data showing us how important good indoor air quality is to our children and our schools. Good indoor air quality has been shown to reduce absenteeism, improve student performance and test scores, improve teacher retention, reduce the spread of illnesses, especially in minority, non-English speaking, and economically disadvantaged communities like the ones Chess serves. In the face of growing rates of chronic absenteeism, as we've heard here tonight, dipping test scores and struggles with teacher retention, focusing on improving indoor air quality can make a profound positive impact. Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, in light of these serious concerns, we urgently and respectfully request that you address, as my fellow PTSA members here have said, to repair the HVAC system, including leaks and mold remediation, install air filtration systems, repair and renovate the bathrooms, repair and replace broken or unsafe windows, a comprehensive remediation of rodents, and finally, we ask that Chess be slated for new school construction in Phase 3 of the Blueprint Schools program. My daughter would also like to make sure that I add that her second grade math and science teacher's HVAC system has not been working all year, and the light in the bathroom also does not work. And the music teacher does not have air conditioning or a window that opens. So, in summary, in this current state, our beloved Chess is not a safe and healthy learning environment. We urge the prioritization of these urgent repairs and updates. The students, teachers, and staff that have made Chess a shining star also deserve a building that reflects their commitment to excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Calvet, I apologize. Libbard Jr., individual upgrades and repairs for Capitol Heights Elementary.
Calvet Liber Jr. Good evening, Madam Chair Walker, members of the board, Superintendent House, and PGCPS family. I am a proud product, parent, and educator of PGCPS. I am here tonight speaking in my role as the T in PTSA at Capitol Heights Elementary School, CHES. I'm honored to speak on behalf of my colleagues and community members for the support of our district to consider our elementary school building as high priority in the capital improvement plan. We educators need our system to work properly for us to do the amazing instruction that happens within the walls. Our building is climbing into the age of retirement by human standards and hasn't experienced any plastic surgery that would make her look younger or feel younger. We need an extreme makeover. The skeletal structure and nervous system of the building do not match or reflect the fast-paced growth of what is being put inside. Student growth. I would like to highlight for you some of the conditions and situations that our educators and students have to persevere through in order to learn. Safety. I had the opportunity to participate in the earthquake drill with kindergartners last Thursday. I supported them in their PE class with our wonderful PE teacher. I'm glad I was there to support, because with almost 30 students in a gym, with no real area to take cover, we split the students to take cover under tables that were located in the gym where things go because it seems to be a storage unit. While students take cover, we could not take cover ourselves. Lack of space. Continuing with the theme of space, our multilingual learner population is growing currently. Currently, 41% of our students in the district are multilingual learners, or Latino-speaking learners. Currently at CHES, they are being educated in a tiny workroom that has a history of crying on the floor, leaky ceiling syndrome, and this means that my colleagues have to be displaced by looking for another space that is not being used, which disrupts consistency and implementation. HVAC. It is unevenly distributed in the building. Some rooms are warm, hot, cold, or even colder than a morgue. A very early study almost 24 years ago asked the question, do indoor pollutants and thermal conditions in schools influence student performance? The answer is yes, but think about it. Anybody would be cold if they had to put on a parka in one room and take it off in another. The first week of school, the floodgates opened, the lights went out, and the air turned off. Bathrooms, and when I say floodgates, I meant it. The primary wing experienced classroom toilets flooding, which limited the students to 2 hallway bathrooms that are dimly lit and experienced leaks. Currently, staff are limited to 2 bathrooms, and all of them are on one side of the building. Little creatures. While the kids are away, our mice come out to play. Where there are mice, there are worse creepy collies around to feed on, so I don't know which is worse. The system has to work for us educators to work without worrying how we can MacGyver the next lesson if something goes wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Giovanna Cartagena, CHES, PTSA, CHES building updates. I'm sure you can correct me on your last name. I apologize.
It's Cartagena, thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent and members of the school board. My name is Giovanna Cartagena, and I'm the parent of a 3rd grade student at Capitol Heights Elementary School.
Capitol Heights Elementary, or CHES for short, has a wonderful community of students, teachers, administrators, and staff that nurture our children's learning through their TAG program, arts integration, and dual language models. This has led to CHES being designated as an E-Gate school, the latest being in 2023. Yet, even with these strong accomplishments, CHES is struggling under the weight of overdue and, in some cases, basic updates. By the county's own 2024 assessment, CHES received a score of 15 on the educational adequacy scale due to facility conditions. The CHES building is over 60 years old and has never been modernized. Students and staff have to work alongside conditions as cracked windows, peeling paint, and inadequate lighting. The first day of school, the electricity went out along with the HVAC chiller the following day. Some classrooms reached temperatures up to 85 degrees, and some parents had to make the choice to keep their kids home to prevent heat exhaustion. These are unacceptable conditions to have our CHES family, especially our children, perform their best under. Thinking of the health and well-being of our CHES family, our school desperately needs HVAC repairs, as a recent replacement 2 years ago showed initial improper work. Moldy tiles need replacement, as our leaky HVAC unit has created a secondary hazard. Installation of an air filtration system, as CHES's indoor environment hasn't been tested since 2020. Window and blind replacements of pipes and faucets in our bathrooms, and adequate pest control are also desperately needed. Last but not least, CHES needs to be slated for construction in Phase 3 of PG County's Public Schools Blueprint Schools program. CHES staff and students both work together to make our school a standout in the community and deserve a building that reflects that same level of excellence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. For public comment written, Tanisha Wooten, individual special education. Thank you to the public for your comments. We appreciate them, and we have heard each and every one of you all. The chair recognizes Superintendent House for his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'd like to first of all highlight National School Bus Safety Week specifically. We're, of course, putting the spotlight on our commitment to keeping our students safe. Their journey to and from school is something that we take seriously. In fact, we transport 85,000 students to and from school, which is about 65% of our total enrollment in the school district. I want to extend my sincere thanks to the dedicated transportation staff, crossing guards, and entire community for really working together to ensure that our students' well-being every day is kept first. Your partnership is invaluable, and in maintaining safe passage for our students, it shows that we are truly working together. Shifting to specialty programs and making sure that our community is up to speed in reference to our programs, PGCPS offers a litany of specialty programs to prepare students for future careers, from health sciences to the arts. Families are invited to specialty program showcases. This coming showcase will be Thursday, November the 7th, from 6 to 8 at Flowers High School. So we want to invite our community out, those that have students that might be interested, to our specialty programs showcase again, Thursday, November the 7th, from 6 to 8 at Flowers High School. This will be an opportunity to meet the program coordinators, hear from students, parents, and really explore options that may fit your students. Applications for high schools, specialty programs will be open through December the 13th. Also, the 5th Annual Family Institute Conference is coming up. Join us for the conference on Saturday, November the 9th at Oxon Hill High School from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. This year's theme will be Engage and Elevate. Madam Chair, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you so much, Superintendent House. The chair recognizes the standing committees for their committee highlights. Each committee will have 2.5 minutes to present. The chair recognizes Board Member Mr. Jonathan Briggs for his report.
Thank you, Chair Walker.
I think this one is the report for today. Yes, this will not be 2.5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I want to start, and I just want to start by saying that there's quite a bit to share. But for the Policy and Governance Committee report, I want to start with Board Policy 8100, which establishes that the Policy and Governance Committee presents an introduction and charge in October. So with this, the committee's charge is to facilitate short and long-range strategic planning for the school system, providing oversight of board policy and legislative and government matters involving federal, state, county, and municipal government agencies and officials. Further, the committee ensures that board governing policies are current, in compliance with federal, state, and/or county laws, and consistent with the best practices in public education. To aid with PGCPS's goal of providing an excellent education to our students and empowering our communities, the committee plans to review and discuss 42 policies this school year, which begin in August 2024 and will end in June 2025. A full list of the policies can be found on the school year 24-25 committee's work plan, which is included in board docs. These policies were selected on the recommendations received from board members, the superintendent, legal ramifications, citation corrections, rescissions, climate updates, alignment with new law, and the community. An important tool used by the committee is the Policy and P&G Policy Review Tracker located on the board webpage. This tracker provides updates on the different stages of each policy's revision. This work could not be done without our dedicated team. So the school year 24-25 committee members and administration representative for the school year 24-25 are myself, committee chair, Dr. Zipporah Miller, committee vice chair, Ms. Lolita E. Walker, chair of the board and member of the committee, Ms. Pamela Boozer-Strother, Mr. Brandon Jackson, and Mrs. Robin Welsh, Director, PGCPS Office of Government Relations, Compliance, and Procedures. The Policy and Governance Committee meets on Tuesday every month at 5 p.m., except during the legislative session, when we meet twice. We invite you to attend our monthly meetings and to provide comments on the policies as they are being revised. Your feedback assists with the implementation of the policies, and we thank you for your continued support and participation. Separately, I want to move to rules of procedure. On September 24, 2024, the Policy and Governance Committee voted in favor of amending the agenda order in the Board of Education's rules of procedure to include the public comment item before the superintendent report. So you probably just saw that we had public comments before the superintendent's report, and that's been voted on by the board. So with this, I recommend the board adopt this amendment on behalf of the committee.
If there are no objections, the board shall adopt the policy and governance recommendations. Hearing none, it is adopted. Thank you for that. I don't have to every time.
Yeah, that was great.
I appreciate that.
And keep moving just to be mindful of time. So next up is the legislative platform. So the legislative framework for this year's session was developed in collaboration with the superintendent and the Policy and Governance Committee. The committee outlined the district's stances on each priority after discussing and approving those they felt would be most beneficial to the district. As I share our platform with you, I now ask that you focus on the screen for a few minutes. Additionally, this platform is available on board docs, and following tonight's meeting, it will be accessible on the board webpage. But before I dive into any of this, I just want to before I provide the committee's recommendation on the platform, I want to express my gratitude to the government relations team for their incredible effort in creating this platform year after year. This is our second year, but year after year makes sense. This requires a great deal of time and dedication to be effective, so I want to say thank you so much. I also want to mention Superintendent House, Ms. Quincy Boyd, board members, and our phenomenal P&G committee. A huge thank you for being committed to this work. So with this, I recommend that the legislative platform to the full board be reviewed on behalf of the P&G committee, which we have here. I'm just really quickly going to walk through a few things. So next slide, please. So I want to start by saying that the 2025 legislative platform will be used for the 447th session of the Maryland General Assembly, which will begin on January 8th, 2025. The legislative platform provides a framework for staff to use when monitoring legislation as it moves through the legislative process and when board members and staff are proposing board positions, developing testimony, and advocating on behalf of the school system. Next slide, please. The legislative positions in the legislative platform are not arbitrary, but a product of a collaborative process. The Policy and Governance Committee, individual board members, the superintendent, and the administration work together to identify the positions that have been included in the platform. Next slide. Additionally, some of our core legislative priorities this year, but this is not an exhaustive list, this is just our big buckets, are implementation of the blueprint, school safety and security, the Maryland State Department of Education Comprehensive Literacy Policy, and immunizations for students new to the U.S. Next slide, please. So just really quickly, top lines for implementation of the blueprint include increased state funding and increased flexibility and more local control over the blueprint initiatives in order to implement the blueprint. Guidance from the Accountability and Implementation Board and the Maryland State Department of Education regarding blueprint requirements be provided up to 18 months prior to the deadline for meeting the requirements so that PGCPS is able to make the necessary operational adjustments to comply with the requirements. Next slide, please. Pertaining to school safety and security, PGCPS is seeking support for legislative measures that continue and expand the Safe to Learn Act grant funding for school building security measures and to pay for staff to operate and monitor advanced security technology in schools. Next slide, please. For the Maryland State Department of Education Comprehensive Literacy Policy, PGCPS seeks legislative measures that will require or provide incentives or subsidies to higher education educator preparation programs to provide training to elementary education candidates on the science of reading instruction, and continued and increased funding for the job-embedded training resources and increasing staffing necessary to successfully implement the literacy policy. Next slide, please. And finally, some of our ongoing, well, really quickly, not finally, the immunizations for students new to the U.S. This is one that we think is really important, and PGCPS is calling for legislation that would allow the date of the immunization appointment to receive the required immunizations according to Maryland's code. In state law, for a newcomer to be extended to no later than 45 days following the date that the student was temporarily admitted to school, and legislation that would provide PGCPS and local education agencies who manage their own professional nurses and have school-based clinics independent avenues to secure the required vaccines to students to close the gap on immunization compliance. Next slide. And lastly, our ongoing priorities include local school board autonomy, things that we've talked about last year, recruitment and retention, curriculum and accountability, funding for success, construction and facilities, and student welfare. Additionally, next slide, it also includes special education, information technology, legislative drafting, federal support of public education, charter schools, and you can find all of this information, as I said, will soon to be on our website. Want to say thank you for that presentation, and we can pull down the slide. And then I just want to move to our last few pieces for the Policy and Governance Committee, which include public comments. So Board Policy 9340, Policy Development, stipulates that policies must be reviewed and revised by the Policy and Governance Committee before being recommended to the entire board for consideration. Board Policy 8102, Officers. This policy establishes the responsibilities of the chair, vice chair, and the secretary, treasurer, and executive officer of the board to set forth the procedures for the election of the chair and vice chair and the steps to be taken in the event of a vacancy in either office. Board Policy 8102 is being revised to consolidate Bylaw 9210, chair, Bylaw 9220, vice chair, and Bylaw 9230, secretary, treasurer, and executive officer. Board Policy 9500, Reform Governance Pay for Performance, is a rescission. This policy was developed to outline the pay for performance guidelines to reform teacher and administrator compensation systems so that teachers and administrators are rewarded for increases in student achievement and ultimately to ensure the adequate preparation of all teachers, principals, and related administrators. And Board Policy 9265, Procedure for Evaluating the Superintendent of Schools, is also a rescission. This policy was developed to outline the avenues to how the superintendent will be evaluated. Board Policies 9500 and 9265 are being rescinded due to their redundancy in other board policies. These policies were then voted on and approved to be recommended to the full board for public comment approval. Lastly, we're coming to policies for consideration and second consideration. So the Policy and Governance Committee discussed the public comments on the following board policies. Board Policy 8100, Board of Education Standing Committees and Focus Work Groups. This policy sets forth guidelines to be followed in the establishment, membership selection, and operations of all boards, standing committees, and focus work groups. Board Policy 9210, Chair Rescission. This policy was developed to outline the roles and responsibilities of the board chair. Board Policy 9220, Vice Chair Rescission. This policy was developed to outline the roles and responsibilities of the board vice chair. Board Policy 9230, Secretary, Treasurer, Executive Officer Rescission. This policy was developed to outline the executive officer's and superintendent's role on the board. Board Policy 9270, School Clubs and Organizations Rescission. This policy was developed to outline the board member's authority to compel action. Board Policy 9361, Meetings, Time and Place Rescission. This policy was developed to guide the board in scheduling regular meetings. And Board Policy 9367, Meetings, Quorum and Adoption of Formal Action Rescission. This policy was developed to provide guidelines on how to determine what constitutes a quorum. These policies were then voted on and approved to be recommended to the full board for first consideration. Lastly, the policies for second consideration. The Policy and Governance Committee is recommending the following policies to the full board for second consideration and/or policy enactment. Board Policy 0116, Wellness, Nutrition, and Physical Activity. Board Policy 2801, Safe and Supportive Schools. Board Policy 9271, Student Board Member. Board Policy 5121, Grading and Reporting for Elementary and Secondary Students. Board Policy 3517, Security of Buildings and Grounds, Rescission. Board Policy 5125, Student Records, Rescission. Board Policy 5126, Student Information, Rescission. Board Policy 5132, Portable Electronic Devices in the Schools, Rescission. Board Policy 5135, School Clubs and Organizations, Rescission. And Board Policy 8261, Rights and Privileges Granted to Board to Student Member, by Board to Student Member, Rescission. On behalf of the Prince George's Policy and Governance Committee, we recommend everything mentioned above to the full board for consideration.
Thank you so much. If there are no objections, the board shall adopt the policy and governance recommendations as outlined by Chair Briggs. Were there any questions? Seeing no objections, the board shall adopt the policy and governance recommendations outlined by Chair Briggs. And just want to say thank you so much to the public that's watching and to our board members. We are entering legislative season, and the committee is working extremely hard to ensure not only do we have a collaboration, but that we are very vocal as we educate, advocate, and act together. Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Board Member Adam Stafford for a 2.5-minute report regarding the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. The OBAFA Committee would like to inform the public on the following. We are opening up applications for the Operating Budget Oversight Committee. This is a new committee that was established by the board under the guidance of OBAFA, and the purpose of this committee is to advise the board in its role of ensuring transparency and oversight of the PGCPS budget. If you wish to serve on this new committee, please visit the board webpage for the application link. Also, we want to remind you to participate in the FY 2026 Operating Budget Recommendations Community Survey. Your responses to the survey will assist the board with the planning and implementation of funds across the school district. The deadline for these responses is October 27th, 2024. Both of these forms are readily available on the board's webpage. We want to thank you for your continued support. And is it okay now to make my statement here or wait until the CIP? Okay, but will it? Thank you. Following a majority vote and adoption, the OBAFA Committee recommends that the Board of Education arrange a meeting with the county review partners to understand and address the permitting issues associated with the school district's construction projects.
Thank you so much for that update. If there are no objections, the board shall approve the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee recommendations that the Board of Education request.
A meeting with the county's
Thank
review
you so
partners.
much. A meeting with the county review partners to understand and address the permitting issues in relation to board's construction. Hearing no objections, this is moved to move forward. Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Board Member Jackson for a 2.5-minute report. For the Board Audit Committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Walker. As far as the Board Audit Committee, the Board Audit Committee meets every first Monday of the month when the school calendar allows. The next meeting is scheduled for November 4th, 2024. The Board Audit Committee has been working with the Internal Audit Office and the administration to provide oversight of the financial reporting process, the audit process of the entire PGCPS system, internal controls, compliance, and laws and regulations. We have already met twice this school year on September 3rd, 2024, and our topic was the Internal Audit Work Plan, SY 2024-2025. We also met October 1st, 2024, overview of the internal audit and resources. And our next meeting is November 4th, 2024, and we'll discuss the chronic absenteeism and high school graduation data. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Jackson. The chair recognizes Board Member Frazier for a 2.5-minute report regarding Parent Community Advisory Council Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. The Parent and Community Advisory Council updates. The Parent and Community Advisory meets every Wednesday of the month of the calendar. The next meeting will be on November 6, 2024 at 7 p.m. There have been 2 recent appointments to District 4 and District 5. Those appointments are as follows. District 4, Christopher Smith. District 5, Akeem Brad Lawrence. In addition to these 2 appointments, I move that the 3 members representing entities from faith-based, community, civic organization, and business sectors that were recommended by the superintendent for the Parent Community Advisory Council be approved with the following names. Dr. Evelina Huggins for the faith-based representative, Ms. Carla Lundy for the civic community representative, and Ms. Therese Holden for the business sector.
Thank you so much. If there is no objection, the board will approve the 3 members representing entities from faith-based, community civic organizations, and business sector that were recommended by the superintendent for the Parent Community Advisory Council be approved with the following names. Dr. Evelina Huggins for the faith-based representative, Ms. Carla Lundy for the civic community representative, and Ms. Sharice Holden for the business sector. The question is, shall the Prince George's County Board of Education approve the Parent Community Advisory Council recommendation as of October 24th, 2024? Is there any discussion? Ms. Woodridge, if you would please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mrs. Frazier.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson.
Aye.
Mr. Jungo.
Aye.
Dr. Miller.
Aye.
Ms. Walker.
Aye.
There are 8 in affirmative.
Thank you so much. The new committee members with 8 in the affirmative for PCAC are approved. Congratulations. The chair recognizes Board Member Frazier for her brief report for academic achievement. Thank you so much.
I am Madeline Lasalle Frazier, District 8 member and Chair of the Academic Achievement Committee. The committee members are Jamal J. Jongo, our student member of the board and committee vice chair, Ms. Shayla Adams Stafford, District 4 member, and Dr. Zipporah Miller, District 5 member. Our committee highlights this evening consists of the most recent Academic Achievement Committee meeting held on October 21st, and that aligns with our work plan. The Office of Transformation, Leadership, and Continuous Improvement presented the current state of comprehensive supportive and improvement schools, known as CSI. The presentation emphasized strategic approach to enhancing academic achievement, highlighting key monitoring and support structures designed to foster effective school leadership and improve student outcomes this school year. The work of the CSI schools indicate to align with the blueprint pillars 1, 3, and 4, and are several key initiatives. Collaborative Institute with the University of Maryland, UMD. The monthly CSI Principal Professional Learning and Targeted Teacher Coaching. Cross-department collaboration. Targeted initiatives for improving math and ELA. Improving climate and culture with the emphasis on mental health and wellness. Attendance improvement strategies. Increasing graduation rates. Enhancing observation and feedback for school leaders. Collaboration with SPED departments to better support students with disabilities and multilingual learners. Ongoing assessment project, a formative assessment system that focuses on mathematics progression across 4 key areas. As the committee approaches the first data review in December 2024, we will continue collaborating with the administration on these initiatives to ensure progress. Our focus stands on enhancing support, leadership capacity, innovating strategies for student retention, and actively engaging the families, staff members, and members of the board to ensure a holistic approach to school improvement. This concludes my report.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Superintendent House to share how CIP funds are identified, prioritized, and allocated.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'd like to invite our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Sharaska Coleman, and his team to share with us this evening in reference to CIP and the process.
Thank you, Superintendent House, Board Chair Walker, and members of the board. Last night at the Board of Education Operations, Business, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting, our Director of Building Services, Mr. Stefanelli, presented on our school district maintenance plan. Director Stefanelli showed the progress we are making with addressing the maintenance needs of our facilities over time, but he also clearly articulated the ongoing challenges we face as a school system working to maintain over 200 schools and offices. That is the second oldest portfolio of buildings in the state of Maryland. More than 50% of all PGCPS facilities is 40 years old or older. Tonight's companion presentation from the Department of Capital Programs, under the leadership of Director Jackson, will focus on the plan for modernizing this portfolio of schools and the challenges we face in our effort to meet the needs of our students and staff now and into the future. At this time, I turn the presentation over to Director Jackson, who will present on the Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, prioritization process. Director Jackson.
Fantastic. Oh, am I good? Can you hear me? Awesome. So thank you, Madam Chair, and all our board members for this opportunity to indulge me in my passion project and chat about our shared goal of improving educational facilities in our county. So I'm going to jump right in so our discussion time is maximized, but I do have to offer this quick preface. As an engineer, I just truly believe it's impossible to correctly solve a problem that is not correctly understood. So I was going to have the Vice Chair back me up on that, but I'll do that later.
Wait, I'm an engineer.
Then I got you. Thank you. Then you got me. So in what I promise will still be an abbreviated format tonight, I do want to spend some time defining our problem statement, and I ask that you bear with me through the history bits and some of the hard to hear bits, because everything here is included specifically so that we can have an intelligent discourse and ultimately arrive at a superior, responsible solution that represents the best interests of every student that finds themselves with a seat in our school facilities. I am also just truly persuaded that, as evidenced by our recent nationally recognized and significant advancements from P3 to the CCAP, that gorgeous Prince George's can also emerge as a thought leader on equitable building and right-sized portfolio management broadly, and that we're uniquely able and positioned to thoroughly challenge the pervasive either-or mentality and instead champion a both-and mentality that's specifically appropriate for our diverse and highly deserving student body. So with that, let's get into it. Oh, cool, it works. Okay, so just a quick overview. We'll do the problem statement. We'll kind of look at where we are in cycle 1, what's next in cycle 2. I'm not going to make you see the whole FY26 capital request, but we do need to look at the adopted 25 because we have some funding things that we will need to discuss. So here we go. So this is our first history slide. I'm just going to walk quickly through what are likely the expected notes here. I don't know if you can see it that clearly, but it's basically, you know, everyone knows there was a baby boom post-World War II starting in the 50s and a national expansion in school building. So that shifts a little bit within a decade, and we move into a more problematic period in our history where we had a lot of integration avoidance building, you know, desegregation avoidance building, which we'll dive into a little bit in the next slide. Next, in the 1980s, you'll see where our maintenance funding and capital investment dollars were pretty severely kind of bottomed out there. Now, to be fair, we had just done a lot of our building, so it might have been justified to scale back a bit, but we never scaled back up. In the 90s, there's a resurgence, and some science wing additions, for example, are made. You can see in 2000, there's an effort to build 26 schools. Of that, they were able to build just 9. And then, of course, you see in 2008, the recession hits, and that impacts funding everywhere for several years. So it's precisely at the end of that economic downturn where our recent modernization story starts around 2013 and 2014. But first, as promised, we have to do a little more to shore up our knowledge of these historical bits around just how much of the inventory was built when, where, how, and why, so we can accurately determine and evaluate what should come next. So specifically, this is sort of the same information, but I just think it's a powerful visual. So we're going to take probably our longest pause here just to note, one, the sheer amount of buildings and square footage added between the 1950s and 70s. That's 11 million square feet. With that huge investment now aged 50 to 70 years, that level of investment remains unprecedented to this day. Even with our recent building boom, you can see down there where we've managed to build almost 2 million square feet, it's not quite 11 million. And so math alone tells us that we have a problem there, at least with the extent of our building age, right? That was quite a while ago. My not so subtle highlight there is that red line, and that is the tenure of William Schmidt. And this is where it gets kind of real. So he's the central character in the Civil Rights Commission study entitled A Long Day's Journey into Light, which I encourage you to find. It's a Google search, but it's a well-documented, well-sourced study by the Federal Civil Rights Commission about how he organized the fight against what he called the desegregation problem. He solicited allies from the usual suspects with his White Citizens Council, and it included just some basic Klan members, and he did advertise for that in the newspaper. So again, like all well-sourced information, and this would continue well into the 70s. So I just want to note that though I had to call him out by name so you can search and fact-check everything we're going to discuss around this point, I just want to note that the interim list of superintendents are not identified to assign blame for lack of building in their eras. Those historic underfunding years go up to Annapolis, they go beyond it, and while that conversation is a little bit beyond our scope tonight, it's definitely worth visiting and understanding as we form kind of an advocacy plan in our next phase of modernization. So what I need you to know in the context of today's topic, though, is that the CIP was one of William Schmidt's main weapons of integration avoidance, to the point that the federal court would mandate that every single CIP submission from PGCPS after 1971 would require full court approval. And what they were looking for, and you can read the law's terms, still online, is that they needed to verify that any addition we were proposing in any new school was not constructed explicitly to avoid integration. So in short, what he did, and it's a pretty long document, was he built really big additions in our southern region, and he built big new schools in the south so he could increase the capacity and inflate it unnecessarily and unnaturally. And then he could build smaller and more numerous neighborhood schools in our northern regions. So that logic is pretty clear. If there's empty square feet down south and smaller neighborhood schools up north, you can pretty easily sidestep busing and any serious integration. So we're going to move on for the sake of time, but there's just additional relevance to these slides that will become apparent soon. And so I'm just going to ask that you keep these facts around the history of the southern region overbuilding and then under enrollment, and the opposite in the northern region in the back of your mind, particularly when we get to discussing, the basics of facility planning, best practices, and universal prioritization logic. And then that you can consider how standard and internationally accepted policies and best practices enacted with all appropriateness in the present day can build upon an inequity from the past day and account for some of the accusations we see of unfairness. Like, in other words, you can be right today, but based on yesterday, your actions can incur some pretty severe concerns and accusations of wrongdoing based on the history. In fact, I'm just going to give you one quick one for free. CIP funds from the state are limited in any region with under-enrollment by statute. So every EFMP, a master plan that we send to Maryland Department of Planning, has all of our enrollment current and projections. And every state CIP where we're asking for funding has not just that facility that we're trying to renovate's current enrollment, it also has all of the adjacent enrollments in its class. So if it's an elementary school, it has to include every elementary school adjacent to it. And then what that form does is it calculates the available seats in that region, and depending on the amount of seats, you can get no funding or you can get severely limited funding. So there, it's a policy that's supposed to promote right-sized portfolios, kind of just as if you had 3 houses and you had a family member in each one and they were a mile apart, you might say, hey, we probably all need to live together. And that's a logical thing. But, with our particular history, I can see why there can be heartburn sometimes with that policy being enforced. So I think now we can pick up a little speed, but this is where we are in 2013. If you look at that line right there, you can see we've had some years of underinvestment. Little building has occurred, and we have relatively low funding. So this moves into where we were and where we needed to go. So pre-2014, we were in a state of disrepair, but it was almost completely unquantified, right? We didn't know how much we needed to fix our inventory. We didn't know if we found that magic dollar number, what we would do in what order. We knew what facility condition was. You can look at our schools and see we have facility condition issues, but we didn't have a ranking there, right? And we also didn't know what made an adequate school outside of condition. This is the job of educational specifications, which you can see on that chart. I'm going to put a pin in that for now because it'll come up later. So the core pillars of our master plan support projects would be facility condition, educational adequacy, and utilization. I'm going to explain those pillars a little more thoroughly on these very next pages, where I'll talk about, when you get to the end of this data-driven master plan, what we found. So first I'm going to tell you how these things were assessed. So the first thing was facility condition. Facility condition is everything you think it is when you drive by, even more when you enter and actually walk the halls. Like, we all know what it is when we're like, this building is in bad condition. But I do want you to understand what facility condition index is, because it's always going to come up whenever we present a facility plan, and everything we shove on the consent agenda is going to reference an FCI. And all that is just the cost of repair over the cost of your building value. So like, how much, is it to replace is your building value. So if your kitchen sink has a leak in your townhouse, that should be a very low cost compared to your home value, and then a very low facility condition index. But if you need a new foundation, a new roof, new HVAC, new electrical, and say you need $200,000 in repairs for your $300,000 house, well, now that's a 66% FCI, and now you're getting into PGCPS facility territory. And basic financial sense should probably dictate, if you're in that situation, you should be evaluating, should you repair that home or should you knock it over and start fresh? And that's exactly what we do, except because we're a bureaucracy, there's a form, that determines that for us. But what we also found in these numbers were that middle schools were overwhelmingly in the worst facility condition. And that makes sense because we'd invested in elementary school improvements over the years because, right, we've expanded kindergarten to all day. We came in, we did the pod conversion programs. In high schools, we had added science wings and CTE programs under funding programs, but nothing has been quite so similarly dedicated from our funding in the capital side for that particular age group. This is kind of unfortunate because middle school is hard enough. But our FCI data was also 15 years old now, but we're going to put a pin in that and come back to that later. The other part I want you to acknowledge, though, is that while facility condition was lowest in our southern region, we are really kind of arguing about very bad to worse. So, on all, we were all pretty bad. All of it is substandard. None of it is where we want our students to be. Educational adequacy is one we don't talk about a lot, but it's one of the ones that's very important to me. So we understand that a leaky roof and an unheated building impact educational experiences. We just heard public comments to that very effect. But even a brand new building can have substandard classroom layouts. It can have unsafe parking lots if we didn't separate bus traffic from walkers. It can have no secured entrance. It can have no specialty learning spaces, and all that would still result in an inequitable learning environment and a low educational adequacy score. So that's where the ed specs we mentioned come into play. So we go through this process where we sit with our academic leaders in the school system and we develop master ed specs. In that, they say, this is what we need for a facility to really serve modern education today. And so in our master plan support process, we then scored every facility against that so we could see how they were performing as schools for us, even outside of condition. So our ed specs were actually done, the master ed specs were actually done in 2012. I can ignore that, right? Okay, good, because I'm not quite there. But we're going to have to put another pin in that, but we are going to come back to that because we do need to update those master ed specs. And just another note that building configuration and site deficiencies are not easily addressed by simple renovations. So this is where you see a responsible master plan would recommend an addition and renovation for a school with a good EA score that needs to address capacity or a system upgrade by condition, but a school with a very low EA score probably just requires replacement. So underutilization, did I make it? No. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. Underutilization. So when I was outside the system, I assumed that under-enrollment meant small class sizes and must be the dream. So just for anyone who was like me and ignorant, I just want to point out that with student-based budgeting, it means less resources and limited program offerings. So from the facility perspective, we might be able to see on our floor plan as we do educational adequacy that we gave you a great music room. But maybe you only have a music teacher on Tuesdays because of the reality of your under-enrollment, and that only if your principal could afford that over some other specialty or need. I think for me, the biggest reality hit for student-based budgeting was that you might actually have more students in your class in an under-enrolled school. So, it's still representative of a subpar learning environment. But back to my facility piece, it is also related to a decrease in capital funding available for building improvements due to that same low enrollment. So we can't replace your roof with capital funds, and then that means our maintenance department has a higher cost just on the operating budget to patch and to do partial roof repairs just to address and mitigate leaks, prevent mold infiltration, to patch our HVAC system so we can still heat and cool. But when I say we don't have funding for it, we just truly don't have funding even to keep your schools heated or cooled. So it's just not something that we could continue long term. Overutilization, to me, I just feel like this is more intrinsically understood. I think everyone knows a classroom of 60 students is bad. I also think, nobody drives by a school and they've got a huge portable farm outside and think, wow, what a superior learning environment. But what is less discussed is that if a facility condition and educational adequacy are the other core components of how a learning environment is judged, and how well it's serving students, then it's worth noting that over-enrollment decreases all of those other criteria and does so exponentially. So over-enrollment in a data-driven master plan, a very important pillar. We've already talked about facility condition, but when you're over-enrolled, you're overburdening the heating system, the cooling system at 120% capacity. That's real. And the sheer volume of traffic, you're accelerating wear on just every single part of that building down to the floor and the furnishings. And then with educational adequacy that we just discussed, almost every criteria we establish plummets, right? Your parking lot might be well designed, but at 130% capacity, it's no longer safe. Those specialty and support spaces that are part of your EA score are commandeered for basic classroom use, so your score drops there too. Your cafeteria is insufficient, so you're feeding too early and too late. Athletic spaces are limited. That kind of just doesn't stop. So it's such a significant cost to the education experience, and so devastating to every single valid data point that we use to judge a facility, that you will always find over-enrollment prioritized in any data-driven master plan. Ours was no exception, so you will find cycle one heavily prioritized, alleviating that devastation that is over-enrollment. So after going through those pillars and having them all scored against each other and developing a prioritization list, we came up with 3 cycles. And this was done by an independent consultant. So the 3 cycles, the first one was to resolve over-enrollment. The second was to start to resolve facility condition and consolidation needs. And the third was just to finish the final projects. The cost in 2014 dollars was $8.5 billion. At the time, the estimate for the deferred maintenance in that number was $2 billion. And the amount of money we needed to really execute a modernization program was $425 million a year. So I really want you to remember the number $425 million a year. I also want you to remember that's 2014 dollars. So right now that's $570 million a year. And I need you to remember one more thing. Average funding has been $180 million a year. The rest of this I think we can skip in the interest of time. So this was the original cycle 1. And this was how cycle 2 went. I could go back and forth like this over and over again, because I can tell you as somebody here in 2014, this is just basically a miracle, right? It took so many different people for this advancement to happen. There's P3 projects that are delivered. There's traditional projects that are delivered and in progress. You can also see, if you go back and forth one more time, and I'm going to stop in a second, I promise. You can see that on the bottom where the southern schools are, there's more than what was promised. And the reason for that was just the acceleration of facility condition and failures. So the plan cycle 1 spending by region for overutilization as our guiding pillar. You can see the top is the north spending, the middle row there is central, and the bottom is south. And this was as planned. I'm frozen again. Oh. Not sure, I might have lost batteries. Oh, there we go. Enough pushes, I guess it comes back. So actual spending, which is different than, this was planned. Actual spending between 2020 and 2030 were a little different because, we still do traditional projects outside of those master plan modernizations. So this is just another way of looking. But if you go back to that sheet one more time, you can see that in the South, we were only going to spend $250 million. and that was at the time just for Suitland High School. So there has been more investment than that, things like Colin Powell Academy, the coming Brandywine Academy. We also did some limited renovations like James Madison and District Heights. So we would invest more. I'm not saying that resolves any disparity in the planned overutilization focus. It's just data that I want you to know. You can also see the actual spending by project type. And this is just another way of looking at the cost of that cycle one investment. So you can see now from, what we've learned, why the repair number in the south, that's under $5 million projects in the first row, is still sizable. It's just a reflection of both the facility condition in the south and then those buildings, which, I've told you were built to be inferior and still are. So this was did cycle one work. We said we had to resolve overutilization, and that top is the north. So you can see the middle number is your accurate, like your current number. So it starts in 2017. That middle drop number right there in 2023, that's an actual drop. And this is the last one is where we're projected to be in 2028 with the planned projects. So overutilization was significantly reduced. And now we go to cycle 2. Cycle 2, this is the one as presented in the FY17 EF&P. It wasn't presented with any prioritization order, but you can see it does have more facilities included than cycle 1 did. It has a full 40. As it turns out, we have already addressed as many as 7 of those through our limited renovations, our modernizations in cycle 1, whether traditional or in P3 phase 1 or phase 2. For example, Isaac Gordine would become part of Colin Powell Academy. Cycle 2 spending, this is just the same way to see the shift because the planned shift there was always for cycle 2 to shift from over-enrollment as the main guiding pillar of the plan to focus on condition and under-enrollment, and that via consolidation. So noting that northern investments would still continue, and those largely to continue to address overutilization, you can see there is a shift to central and southern spending. So what's next? So as you know, the Master Plan Support Project was a full 10 years ago now. So not only is it time to update based on everything that's occurred from new goals and some of these combined projects and accelerations in the interim decade, but it's also just required because, again, the 40 facilities in Cycle 2 and the 40 in Cycle 3 were never approved in a priority order. So now, we're looking to have another transparent process for developing such a priority order. We will again start with defining what a school is to us with the new Master Ed Spec process launching within the next month, because the ones I mentioned before that defined what a school is are now from 2012, so they're pretty dated. Just some other quick notes, or I'm going to try to make them quick notes, on this piece right here for the new plan. We know the consultants left some facilities in Cycle 3. They noted them under a TBD status. They did the same for some in Cycle 2. And those were part of their consolidation recommendation. So those 29 consolidations weren't left off the cycle charts that anyone familiar with this master plan really loves, because it really simplified what you were looking at. But they had to be shown there. So, their consolidation wasn't approved. So they were shown there, but that $8.5 billion number we talked about absolutely required their consolidation. There was no cost associated with the replacement of all 29 of those consolidations, or even that $8.5 billion number would have been higher. Unfortunately, there was a board vote freezing consolidation studies around 27 or 2018, so that also froze the ability to address some of those facilities that were actually originally intended, once the study completed, to possibly be addressed earlier, like in Cycle 1 or Cycle 2, because a lot of their conditions, there's no way they're making it to Cycle 3. And we do recognize that these are hard conversations and decisions for sure. And, despite what we've learned of the history of that overbuilding in the South, communities have certainly rallied around those same schools, and they've developed a positive identity for their community. But I do hope that the portion of our history lesson today has built more of an appetite to have those hard conversations, because we now know that in our southern region, that extra square footage was not a gift then, and it's definitely not a gift now after decades of lack of maintenance and capital investment funding. So it's certainly also not surprising that on top of why it was built and why there was so much extra square footage, it was built with a notably inferior quality to some of the other regional construction at the time. I also don't think, and just to clarify that board vote reference, I don't think it was articulated loudly enough at the time of the consolidation freezing that every time from the master plan perspective, without fail, that we consolidated, the plan was to move 2 to 3 old schools into one new state-of-the-art school. There was never a consideration for slamming 2 old schools into another old school. So just something I strongly advise we keep as logic in our next phase, but articulate more aggressively and clearly as really the only path we can do to alleviate those extra square feet and get those kids out of those segregation era big schools. New components, though, that will be in our cycle too. The regional schools that were excluded before, like Dora Kennedy French Immersion, the incorporation of facility investments that support our academic partners from universal pre-K expansion and CTE expansion. And then, whatever the next level for our sustainability achievements and targets, all of that should be master planned. And last time, just like last time, this would occur with extensive community engagement and all the many steps before it shows up to the board for a vote. We also just need to flesh out some smaller or not so smaller details, like where we fall on lockdown as far as what a facility should look like, anti-vandalism measures versus light, airy, welcoming facilities. It's just a conversation that's ongoing nationally, because we want to be safe without looking like a prison pipeline with prison products. So that's the sweet spot we're looking for, but we need to standardize that and plan it across our facilities. We also have the opportunity to define our guiding pillars of this phase. We should probably still look at facility condition and educational adequacy, but we have an opportunity to expand our definition and cornerstone around equity, because that is already intrinsic in what we're going to be looking at. That's part of what drives us to expand CTE. It's what drives us to expand universal pre-K access. So we can definitely do more and define collectively what that looks like. The next piece is, I'm just going to show you some concerning facts from what was in our last adopted budget. So these are just the major projects. It was $100 million approved for the major modernizations. We already know we need $570 million a year to execute the full modernization program in 4 to 7 years per cycle. But even our current delivery pace outside of the P3 is inextricably linked to the referenced $100 million a year average. But last year, we received just $104 million to spend on new capital projects. So this $100 million, and I'm rounding up just a little bit, you see for these big projects leaves just this $18.185 million that you see on the right column. So this was our county, what we call our countywide projects. And just so we can start to talk about what it looks like when you really reduce our funding like that, it's everything in bold, right? So if you see, we asked for $1 million in ADA upgrades, we got $0. So that's the money we use. It's really not a proactive ADA upgrade program. It's if somebody calls from the school to the maintenance side of the shop and they need a lift, that's what we use to do that. Buried fill tanks, we're going to knock down a building, it has a buried fill tank, we have to get that out, because that can contaminate the soil. Code corrections are probably self-explanatory, zeroed out. Lead remediation, zeroed out. Central Garage is updating some of their spaces. It took a really long time even to get some money for them, but we did have bus drivers in unsafe conditions. HVAC and plumbing upgrades, $0. And when we say upgrades in these countywide categories, what we really mean are small projects just to make sure we're able to keep the schools heated and cooled and open. And these are also the projects that our building maintenance team really depends on having capital funds to offset the operating requirement. Like parking lot repavings, $0. Planning and design, that's actually for bigger projects, $0. They did get a little bit for playgrounds. I think that's enough for like 1.5 playgrounds. No money for security upgrades, no money for stadium upgrades, and reduced money for systemic replacements like the windows and doors we talk about. I don't have a way to wrap that up, but I do want to note, because I did see that one of the questions was how we prioritize our projects. So I've walked you through how we prioritize master plan projects, the big brand new schools. But, part of the CIP has always been a significant investment in touching as many county schools as we can for improvements. And that is a different process. So, for example, the HVAC upgrades might come from they will come from maintenance's HVAC shop. They know what they've been touching, they know where they put in a lot of work orders, and they know what's going to fail soon. So those tend to come from them. They have roof inspectors, both external and internal, and they have an idea where the roof leaks are the worst and where the interiors are compromised. So we don't really have a satisfactory explanation on how we are going to supplement with our maintenance team to make up this difference in funding. I do also just want to note that every time you see in parentheses that I have new dollars there, if you pull the county pages down, they will show you probably that we got like $60 million. I just want to note that what they do when they do that is they show a number that's telling us we can spend our old money. So when I'm presenting, I'm just going to tell you the new dollars that are approved, because you already saw what was approved last year. So telling me this year that, hey, you could still go spend that year, that's not new money. So we'll always be comparing new money to new money, because when I told you we had that $160 to $100 million average to do new capital projects, we'd already counted the old money. So we are only focused on new money. And so this is, how does this stack up, right? So you can see in that gold column, it starts at 2015. That's our total funding. And I mean, this is a little bit pre-master plan, right? And so this was the number that we were like, man, this is not enough for a modernization program. But by 18 and 19, you see we start to hit 190 million. And so although it's not the 425 million, we are still able to move forward with some pretty impressive capital projects, especially compared to where we started. So when you get down to those last numbers for 24 and 25, 104 is definitely a very different reality for us. I will say, though, that the total funding is 124 million. I subtracted, for the purposes of our conversations, the part of the capital budget that goes to the P3 availability payment, because just in this conversation right here, I think the goal is to talk about how funding is impacting the new capital projects and those countywide initiatives. So that money is not available for those new projects. So when you're comparing the 211 million before, all of that money was available for new capital projects. So that's a reality that I just wanted to highlight there. I think that is just about it. I'm sorry to end on quite this note, but I don't really have a nice way to wrap that up, except to say that if you go back to 2014, things looked financially bleak too. And, I look back at why Dr. Goldson and Dr. Maxwell funded that master plan support project when they had absolutely no commitment anywhere to increase our funding. And I know for sure that advocating around that, articulating the need and the cost can change things, because I saw it happen. I was definitely a private naysayer in 2014 because it looked like a monumental problem. But what I've learned over the last decade is that at least having the numbers and being able to articulate them and working on that visualization that was requested is something that we're absolutely going to do to try to help articulate what we need to go forward. So with that, happy note. Talk questions.
Thank you so much. This was really helpful in understanding the history, where we are, and then where we're going. I'm sure board members have a number of questions, so we will begin now as the lights light up. We'll first go to Board Member Adam Stafford.
Thank you so much, and I really truly appreciate this presentation. I think I speak for all of my colleagues that it was extremely informative, and we've been following this in the OBAFA committee pretty closely, and I will say I'm really grateful to Dr. Coleman and his team just for being so open and transparent. I feel as a board member, I've been on the board for 4 or 5 years. This is the most information that we've received to really have a strong insight into the challenges that we're facing. And I think now I can fully wrap my head around what needs to happen. And just hearing those stories earlier, I was just tearing up. Our kids shouldn't have to go to school in these conditions. And I know as a teacher how hard it is when you are dealing with those conditions, and now having a child in the school system, it's really unconscionable to me that we're still dealing with this issue. And it really comes down to funding. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. That's my big takeaway, colleagues, that we need to be better advocates for funding. We're saying that truly you need, in order to rapidly modernize, if you can just quickly tell me, in order to rapidly modernize, we need $570 million annually, and you're currently being funded at about $180 million annually.
Historically, yes.
Historically.
In the last several years, it was $180 million. In the last 2 years is where it became $120 if you count the P3 availability.
Right, and then
payment
that
in
got
there.
put into operating.
Well, for phase 2, but I'm only showing you phase
Phase
1.
one.
So phase
Okay.
1 is subtracted from what's available for capital projects. So that's what you see there.
So let me just say this, what I think that we need to do is I feel like we need to write a letter and convene a meeting with our legislators to ask them to consider some revenue generating measures to support our capital improvement work and the rapid modernization of schools. Because as you just heard, she said, there are schools in the cycle 3 that we're not gonna make it to cycle 3. They're not gonna be inhabitable by students. That's what I'm hearing and I'm understanding, is that there are schools that we're gonna have to push them up to cycle 2 because we can't wait until what we had planned. That's what I'm hearing. And so, I wanna make a motion that we as a board, convene a meeting, our board leadership, and convene a meeting with our legislators in order to push for some revenue generating measures this session. And, we just can't wait any longer, and that's what we need to be doing as advocates.
Board members, there's a motion on the table to have a convene a meeting with, we don't need a second. Oh, but let me just get the thing out and then we'll just vote. It's no problem. To convene with our legislators to determine what revenue generating opportunities we have. Is there any discussion? For the piece of discussion that I will have, I think I'm going to absolutely vote positive on this, but what I do know is true is that we've already begun the discussions of what is necessary here, so I feel good that we've laid a foundation to absolutely get the right people to the table, to have some brainstorms ourselves before we bring the people to the table so that we can have an effective and efficient meeting. And so in line with that, I guess the friendly amendment I'd like to make on that is that we as a board get really clear on what it is that we're talking to them about, and I'm happy to partner with you on a draft in order to do that. So is that a good friendly amendment for that? Thank you so much. Colleagues, we'll take this vote, and the vote is for yeah, Mr. Revelle. Okay, I'll repeat it. Do you all have the motion? Did you want to repeat it, or did you want me to repeat it? Yep, absolutely. The motion is for the board leadership so for myself, Lolita, and for board member Adam Stafford to create a draft for the board to make sure that we're very clear on what we want to talk to legislators about, and then organize a meeting where we can talk about creative revenue generating opportunities this session so that we can make sure that we properly fund the schools right here in Prince George's County.
And I want to emphasize that we properly fund the rapid modernization of the schools. That's what we're saying, right? Okay.
Yes.
Exactly. Mhm, okay.
Fair. Thank you so much. If we can call the roll, thank you.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Miss Boozer Strutter.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mrs. Frazier.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson.
Aye.
Mr. Jungo.
Aye.
Dr. Miller.
Aye.
There are 8 affirmative.
Ms.
and
Walker,
affirmative.
aye. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Board Member Adam Stafford. We will continue with the comments, and we will have a second round as necessary. Are you all set, Ms. Shayla? Thank you. I was trying to get to it. All right, we're going to go to Board Member Boozer Strother.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Director Jackson, for going deeper with the history and the presentation. One thing I wanted to ask about, and part of me really doesn't even want to do this, because this concept of North Central South does not help us as one PGCPS, fighting for the funding in Annapolis and our county council for the modernization plan. And that is what served us so well for the Built to Learn Act. And those dollars, that was political will. That was who was elected. That was PGCPS organizing buses and marching in Annapolis. This is what we did in 2019 and 2020. We were showing up in Annapolis, and we were one PGCPS. But I will make that statement, but I wanted to confirm that when you did when PGCPS did the North Central South for the boundary study, is that the exact same data map, like the number of students and the number of buildings? Because when you see those long bars for the north, and without seeing the number of students and number of buildings, I feel like there's some context missing from all the data. So I would ask that there might be some consideration of understanding those pressures, because there are more buildings and the boundary, there's way more data visualization of that in the boundary study. And I also just wanted to confirm that there actually is the same geographic lines consistently when we do North Central South. And also around the districts, I think it's another concern of mine when there's data based by district, like the largest projects in the largest schools, say in District 3, sit right where District 1 and District 2 students share that building. High Point High School, which is nearing 200% capacity, has a lot of District 3 students. It sits in District 1. That's going to be a very big project for District 1. So I think that part of me, there's like to just divide it by district isn't telling the full story, because a lot of students from different districts are going to benefit from these big new projects. So those are some of the things that concern me about the breakdowns, like that we are one PGCPS. So I'd like some considerations around that data. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's move to Board Member Jackson, followed by Board Member Miller.
Thank you. So I mean, I'm just gonna be authentic. I feel like it's a sad day when mothers gotta take off work or whatever they doing to come up here at night to testify that their kids, are cold because their windows are broken in their classrooms, or they got mice running around in their classrooms, and they scared to go to the bathroom or walk down dark hallways because there's no lighting. Like, I know there was a lot of brain power and a lot of algorithms and metrics put together on how to prioritize things, but if we're not tackling the bare necessities, then we're missing the mark. Like, with all that, I'm sure that it's great, but it's like, these are the bare necessities that our kids need to go to school and to be productive, like lighting, infestation, they're cold, like that stuff is like inexcusable. So I just want to know if there's something that we can do, House, and it seemed like those are like surface level things that shouldn't take a lot of money to tackle. Is there something we can do? Because, I mean, that's my district, and I can't vote on anything unless we got to do something for chess. Thank you.
I just want to note that those things do take quite a bit to fix, and because unfortunately what I heard from Capitol Heights, I've heard before and I've seen with my own eyes, and the shops are aware we have those issues at so many schools. So I think when I talk about facility condition, and I'm telling you it's really high, 50 to 60%, that's what I'm saying, that is not an anomaly in our system, and that it's frustrating when there's limited funding to fix it. So yeah, we've patched windows. That's not enough, right? Pest control is a slightly different non-capital expense, but you know, even knowing that there are a lot of leaky roofs, that's not a good condition either. Like, we don't feel like we're knocking this thing out of the park. We should be replacing 15 roofs a year based on the age of our inventory. We got $0 the last few years. That's a $37 million cost. And I'm just wanting you to know this, because it's not like somebody looked at what Capitol Heights is going through and thought, that's not worth funding. That didn't happen.
Right, but I guess my question is that what would take priority of parents saying that their kids are cold? What could be more important than that? Or what can be more important than being scared to go to the bathroom because they don't have enough lighting in the hallways, or, you know, mice crawling on their kids? Like, what can take priority over that? And I understand that it's not an anomaly. That just speaks to an even greater issue that we're having. But I feel like everything should be dropped to address these type of issues, because our kids can't go to school and function normally, or our teachers can't teach, and that's the service that we offer is education and creating stability. Like, how can a child feel connected to a facility that, you know, that's like that? I don't understand.
I think that's what we're trying to communicate, is that our facilities are failing. Like, we're not trying to say that it's okay and we can just calmly modernize. We're trying to say it's in a critical state now. It was in a critical state in 2014 when they started this. It hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. So when we say we think we're going to have to close schools because they can't house instruction, we truly mean that thing. We truly mean that thing.
Thank you, and we can come back for a second round, absolutely. Board Member Miller, followed by Board Member Jongo and Briggs.
Thank you. I will be brief because I don't want to be repetitive, but I do want to thank Director Jackson, Chief Coleman, and your team. Every time I've called, I believe every one of us get calls from our schools, and it's disheartening when we do a walkthrough at the school and we see what's happening. But the one thing I will say, that every time I've called, you've been responsive. And I've been looking at the CIP. I read through this, and Board Member Adam Stafford pretty much pulled out what I wanted to do, but I just want to cry out that for us board members, we're in a state of urgency. You know, we are in a state of urgency for our children. I don't know, you know, and we did make a motion and we have agreed to move forward, but I wonder if there's something more pressing that we can do. We are going to meet with our legislators. This will require business and industry to work with us. This will require us to think more outside the box in the P3. We got to do something, because this is for our children. While we don't have an answer sitting here right now, what we do know is we need to do something. So as we convene, I don't have a motion, but as we convene, because we have something at the table, we need to figure out how we can address this with the urgency that is required, so that our superintendent and his team can move forward to do something to ensure that our students have a learning environment that they can go to, where we're showing them that we value who they are. Sorry, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you so much. And board members, if you've already put on your lights, and I have the list here. Board Member Jongo, followed by Board Member Briggs. Thank you so much, Dr. Miller.
Okay. Good evening. I first just wanted to say, as student members of the board, as much as I was elected by the 6th to 12th graders in the county, I still represent even the elementary schoolers. So just hearing tonight's, public comments, I'm not gonna address them like formally, but I do have like a question. So when the school year goes out, like, June, when school, when we get out of school for summer, and is there like a checklist or anything that is being done at every single school facility to know, so that we know, or at least have the data of if a school is at least at a peak efficiency to be run through in the school year? Because if that's not the case, in that there's buildings that don't have proper heating, that don't have proper air quality, is that not something that would say, oh, we wouldn't be able to actually open up our schools in August? Because if, let's say, building inspection came in from Maryland to that school, they would fail. I mean, that's just how I would think of it. I know it's a school, but like either way, we still have to cooperate with Maryland code. So if our schools aren't up to code, we would have to close them. So I just really feel like we need to have that step in to make sure that we don't get to that step, because it only takes one call from one parent for an inspector to come. I know that because there's been an inspector at my school. So it's more of, I just really want to see that type of checklist come in every single school year. Like, it's not a 1 year, 2 year thing, even if it's a brand new school, just because of the fact that when our students come back in August and they're dealing with stuff that could have, I'm not saying that, I get like the money problem, but also I want to say, like, either way, like even minor or major, very major problems really should be at least somewhat addressed before we come back within those 2-3 months. That's it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jongo. Were you looking for an answer about the checklist, or?
Yeah, I was looking for an answer about the checklist.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. So some of that checklist part for every facility is more of a maintenance function to make sure that you guys can come back. I just want to note, though, that slide I showed you that showed $0 for HVAC, it's not the first year there's been $0 for HVAC. So when I'm telling you it's a serious funding problem and we're worried that schools will close because we can't heat them, I'm really worried that schools are going to close because we can't heat them. A lot of times, our HVAC shops on the maintenance sides, they're well aware. They have Band-Aided, duct tape, used gum and spit to hold those boilers together for as long as they could. And so that's where, we talk about our budgets being inextricably linked. At some point, what we really needed was to upgrade every system in their facility for, heating and cooling. And instead, they've had to do Band-Aid repairs. They're not satisfactory. As for code, though, there are a lot of code-related inspections, especially right now. But I just so you know that a lot of the older schools, everything met code the day it was built. But if you remember that slide from the 50s and 70s, that's a very different code.
And Board Member Jongo, just to add to that, our capital programs team and our maintenance team work in concert with one another to ensure our buildings are ready for children in the fall. And so the building services team monitors work orders and prioritizes those work orders at the end of each school year and throughout the year to ensure that they address the most critical areas so that we can open.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to Board Member Briggs, followed by Board Member Frazier, and then myself.
Thank you so much, Chair Walker. So, I just wanted to mention that I'm really excited to see that the Educational Facility Master Plan will be will commence, and there will be a new kind of review of the status of schools. I did just have a question about, I know that initially in the 2014 to 2017 period, there were the 3 cycles, and it was based on over enrollment in the districts, and then I think the second piece was around the deferred maintenance needs, the significant needs that are necessary. And I believe in the plan that I was reading through, there was now schools taken from cycle 2 and moved to cycle 1 because there's just so much deterioration of buildings. And so I just wanted to mention that is a huge concern, I think, as we're going into this next cycle of construction is, really really assessment and surveying of buildings is really, making sure that we're thinking thoughtfully about how we kind of organize those things. Because just as a board member, one of the things that I continue to hear from the community is they're like, well, wait, my school has, as we heard this evening, right, has a huge leak. And yet you have someone who has like a school in the northern county who's like, because they have more students, they're therefore getting a school that's constructed or renovated or built. And I think that it's really a hard conversation to have with people to say like, oh, just give it another 20 years or, give it another 10 years and your school will be built. The other thing I wanted to say was that I did hear another really interesting point from some community members around development. I know that in the Educational Facility Master Plan, it talked about looking at population and families moving into communities. Just curious how that process works and what that'll look like. Are you all taking into consideration what 2028 or 2032 may look like with the development? Can you just speak to that publicly?
Sure, I'll speak to it from my kind of capital perspective a little bit. So it is handled by people accounting and school boundaries, but we certainly interface with them a lot. So once a increase in enrollment, especially like let's say you're building and you have to submit a housing plan to Maryland Parks and Planning, like it has to come to the school system. So we see it and we know it's coming. But the capital processes from the state, from Maryland Department of Planning, require there to be an established enrollment trend before we can do a capital project. So one of the things that would have to be looked at is how can you avoid a capital expenditure, right? Is there a boundary change that can be enacted that can fix this issue? Is there any non-capital method that this can be fixed first? And it's still really, really strict about, is this a long-term trend versus a temporary population shift? For elementary schools, our team and Department of Planning, and Consensus Bureau, they look at birth rates, like for elementary school. For, middle school and high school, you usually see them coming up our pipeline, right? So then, we can move, but you can ask them, the board members from the northern area, even when we are well over capacity and have these established trends, it can still be a fight with Maryland Department of Planning to have them validate and sign off that we should be building and then be funded to build to address capacity. Especially, they want us to build right at 100% of established enrollment. And even if we can see trends that grow, we have to then pay for that out of the county. They won't participate above 100%. And, that's unsatisfactory, right? We would prefer, our sweet spot is like 80 to 90% or 85 to 90%, which is already tight enough because over enrollment can happen really quickly. And like what we saw with Brandywine.
Yep.
I will say when you talk to people in county, they will tell you student yields are very different now and that houses don't equal students the way they used to. Migration patterns can be stronger. An existing apartment building can suddenly end up yielding enough students to suddenly fill an elementary school, even if that housing has been there for decades. Whereas when you're building these $600,000 houses in different parts of the county, it doesn't tend to yield a lot of students. I don't know if you like Beechtree. Beechtree had like 2,000 new homes built over 16 years. From 2010 until now, that added 32 kids to our boundary schools. So they have to do some due diligence before they just kind of jump out and build, and they have to follow the capital process. I just want to add one more thing. What's missing, though, in our long process for capital improvement is we used to be able to drop those temporary classrooms. I'm not saying they were 100% satisfactory, but they definitely helped as a bridge measure. But we're really not able to do that anymore. We have to do foundations, stormwater management, plumbing, fire alarm, and then upgrade the building they're outside of, because we used to just drop them over summer to kind of, alleviate that pressure. So we haven't, as far as I'm concerned, quite figured out how to address that now. Like we need something flexible and reactive that we can employ to immediately bring relief to our students short term in those situations while we go through those many process steps to get a capital project approved. And that is even if there is funding for it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson. We're going to continue forward because we already have a second round. And then one of the things that we can do is make sure that we engage you as we come up with the overall plan to make sure we have it detailed enough to be able to move forward. We're going to go to Board Member Frazier.
Thank you. My questions are around the index reclassification process. How long is it going to take us to reclassify all our schools with a new index score so that we know where they are? And if we deem that 80% or more of our schools are non-habitable or failing, what are we going to do? What is the plan? Because at this point, I know for District 8, a lot of our schools will be deemed inhabitable because some of the schools just are failing right now. So I need to know how long is it going to take us, and what is the contingency plan when we realize that our kids cannot attend these schools?
Unfortunately, I definitely don't have a contingency plan for that. I will say that the facility condition indexes that we do need updating are from 2008. There were some problems with them even then, and then they were only updated with a desk audit in 2012, and that is then what we based the master plan support project and where we are on. And I think some of that was cost concern. We already had to, I told you about the ed specs, but what I didn't tell you was in order to evaluate what spaces you have and how you're using it, you need floor plans. Like, we didn't have floor plans. We had to pay somebody to create floor plans. You know, that's how much of a deficit we were working on. So this time, the facility condition indexes have not been updated since 2012. So that's that part where we definitely need to do that. And we have that RFP ready to go. And we're starting with the ed specs first, but we're ready then to move into facility condition. If the facility condition shows that everything is at imminent failure, I have no idea what we would do.
Well, the one thing that I would add to that is that we're not waiting until that reindexing is done. We know that our schools are the condition that they're in, and so that's where some of the work that we're doing around P3, around staged renovations, around building new schools, around consolidation of some facilities into larger, newer facilities. All of that is ongoing work that's happening now to mitigate what we learn down the road.
But when are we doing this re-indexing? I think it's important for us to know the current condition of our buildings.
Mm-hmm.
We can't work on 2012 data.
Oh, we agree. That's why that's the plan.
No.
When? When
Within
is
a
it?
month, they said.
I'm sorry, what was the answer? Is it this
I
year?
didn't say that yet. No, it won't finish the RFP process this year, but hopefully early 2025, you'll see the award before you to kick off. I do just want to note that they're going to focus on cycle 2 and cycle 3, and we're not done with cycle 1 yet.
Thank you so much. I'm going to begin now. One, I want to thank you, Ms. Jackson. Yes. So, you know, I think we're also preaching to the choir because we're all saying the same thing. It's unacceptable that our scholars are walking into spaces, no matter where it is in Prince George's County, and they are dealing with mice, they're dealing with non-potable water. I mean, I'm excited to see a PTSA here in full force today. I tell my PTSAs that all the time, and it's not about being the loudest person, it's about bringing visibility to what's happening, what we all know is happening, so that they can come on board, because for me, it's all about educate, what you're doing right now, right? It's new news to some people. We're going to get it out. It's on video. We're going to push it out because this is information that people have to be educated on. It's about advocate next. It's about getting ourselves together, starting off with the letter, but then that becomes our bullet points. That becomes the clarity that equals the confidence of us going to Annapolis, of us meeting right here, of us having the media for something that makes some sense. So that's educate, that's advocate, and acting is going to the advocacy day that we're having already planned. We're going to leverage that. It's about leveraging our PTSAs, our PTAs, our parent organizations, our community advocate groups. It's about concentrating on exactly what we need. And what we're hearing right now is that we need to make sure funding is there for our schools. And once we're educated on these things, we, the board, can have a solid plan to work collectively with the administration with good data and actually march to say collectively, not be in small little bits everywhere. Educate, advocate, act together is so we go with one voice. These are the top things that we need in order to make sure we don't fail our scholars, period. And so I'm excited, as you can probably hear, that this is the opportunity to be able to advocate, period. Educate, advocate, act. We getting some shirts together because this is it. I'm going to come back for my second round because I didn't even get to my questions, because I just want the board to recognize that we're not fighting with you all. We are embracing, because this is about educating us on exactly what's on that screen. And we have people in the community that's willing to do it with us. We just got to be organized enough to be like, here's our top 5. Let's go and do it. Here's the part to the speaking point. So we're on it. Okay. Love it. Let's go to second round, and then I'll have my real questions for the second part. Okay. Board Member Adam Stafford was first, but we will reserve her space. Board Member Jackson, you're next.
Yeah, I'm still talking about Capitol Heights Elementary School. Capitol Heights. It's just, for me, that we're not an anomaly. That just doesn't sit well with me. We got to figure out a way to do something. You know what I mean? Like, we can't talk about our truancy rates. Would you want to go to school with a cracked window, a busted window, and it's cold, and you got roaches and mice running around? I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to work with none of that stuff. So we can't even talk about truancy and how kids are not coming to school if we can't create the conditions for them that are palatable. Like, and then Dr. Coleman, you had mentioned that at the beginning of every school year, at the end of every school year, you guys do an inventory check to make sure that schools are, ready for students to move into. But students aren't ready to move into a school like that. I don't know, and those situations have been going on prior to this year. So something has to be done about their schools. And then lastly, I'll just say this, not to continue to beat this dead horse, but even if we don't have the money financially, what about our partners? We have a partnerships office. Like, what about electricity company? They talking about lights in the hallway and in the bathroom. Like, those can't be that expensive. Like, what are our partners doing? What about any of the different non-profits or for-profits or all these daggone gas stations that's popping up? What, are they paying their corporate social responsibility? Like, are they helping out our schools? Like, how are we targeting funds in the community outside of, whatever funds we'll get from the state or locally? Like, what are we doing for as far as partners to help these schools? So I just can't walk away from this thing. It's like, oh, that's not an anomaly. They got to get in line. Tough luck. I can't accept that answer when my kids going to school and it's cold. I just need to know, can we just look into that and follow up with Capitol Heights Elementary School?
So definitely, Board Member Jackson, we certainly heard the testimony of the parent community from Capitol Heights Elementary School, and we hear you as well. Our team was actually in the hallway talking with, our maintenance team was in the hallway talking with the Capitol Heights representatives even during this meeting, and I've already been in communication with the area office so that we can conduct a walkthrough and determine what the actual concerns are and what we can do to mitigate them. So yes, we hear it.
So I just want to jump in. I didn't offer this earlier because I love advocacy, because when I started there wasn't a lot because everyone knew there was nothing we were going to do. So when I hear it, I love it. But I just want you to know that we had a bit of state funding open up this year because they might get a little bit more. So because of the foreman and maintenance and their priority list on windows and doors, Capitol Heights was on that list. So it's in the list to get state funding. I don't know if it'll get it, but it is on the list. I guess for me though, I still do feel like my job and my passionate commitment, like I will cry when I go home at night if the only people I can help are the people whose parents had the wherewithal to show up and the interest and the time and the knowledge that they could do it. So I do still feel that it is the job of the capital programs director to try to fix the school facilities, whether or not their parents have the ability to advocate for them. So I will always, when I told you we prioritize based on where failure is imminent, based on what our maintenance shop says, I really did mean that thing. So that's what's going on there. Anytime we've moved windows and seen that structural damage was occurring, like at Forest Heights, and they were in danger, that's what we're saying. The schools are really, really in bad shape, right? So we really want a holistic plan where we can get all the kids in, and not even just a superior environment. We can at least start with adequate and safe, right? Heating and cooling is important. Pest control is a little different than capital, but it's still something that can be done. Lights off, those are work orders. Those are still things that can be done outside of the capital budget, but it is in the budget. I just didn't want to say it and think like because it was in the budget, one, it's still not funded, and two, we still haven't succeeded, right? We're still in a failure state.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. We're going to go to Board Member Jongo.
Okay. Oh, so this is more of like a statement I can say. So PG County, Prince George's County Public Schools, we're the second largest district in Maryland, period. You know, we're the second largest district in Maryland. But when it comes to a lot, like I'm gonna be truly honest, like a lot of management or structure in a way, we don't move as a second largest district in Maryland. And I want to say that more of that there's, you know, I'm able to, you know, meet with student members from all around the county. Like it's not just, I mean all around the state, not just, you know, Prince George's County. So I'm able to see a little bit more of a, you know, I guess I could say I can see different perspectives. And I'm saying when it comes to like, you know, school maintenance, school maintenance, or, you know, keeping our schools upkept, I feel like, you know, we as a board, or as, you know, even like our community letters, or any like recommendations or anything that we do, like we're always able to, you know, come in contact with our neighboring counties to be able to, you know, find a good solution. So I was really recommending that we do that even when it comes to something like this, especially of something of this magnitude, because it's not just Capitol Heights Elementary. It's way more schools than we would actually realize. So I don't know if it would be an administration thing or if that's, you know, maybe somebody a little bit lower down, but if we could definitely get, you know, our other our other neighboring counties maybe in that conversation, they could help us out. You know, we can help them out, and we're able to, you know, build all of our counties together.
Thank you so much. Did you want an answer for anything, or were you making a statement for
Nah, that was just a
consideration?
statement.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Board Member Boozer Strother.
Yeah, I appreciate your, you know, what you're saying, colleague. But Montgomery County, Howard County did not have the decades of disinvestment that this county had. And like, we need to be able to share that story. Your peers in Montgomery County, their buildings have been funded for decades without the disinvestment years. What we saw on that slide was the disinvestment years, and that's the blueprint. And so that is a piece that we have to continue to tell that story. Montgomery County and Howard County did not go through those decades that we went through. Same with City of Baltimore with us.
Thank you so much for that clarification. As we almost close the loop on this second round, I'll take my opportunity. Board Member Briggs, did you have anything additional? Board Member Frazier, anything additional? Board Member Miller, did you have anything additional? Okay, no worries. Thank you so much. So I'll just close this one here is, you know, thank you once again. I think each of us could go through a roll call inside of each of our districts and talk about the lack of air quality, or, you know, Melwood Elementary that had to close a classroom because it's raining inside. We can each do that. And so I do appreciate the fact that you did say that we want to make sure that there's equity across, because we know it's happening everywhere. So the reason I asked for this specific presentation is because it's important to understand how do we identify and then prioritize our funding, because we recognize as board members, our constituents come to us all the time. Principals principals come to us all the time. You can't go to a welcome back to school event without coming back with a million next steps for our superintendent on what the heck is going on here. And they can let you know that I come back with them, everybody does, and then they follow up, as you probably know as well. So what I want to ask you, though, in my question is, how are we, and you might have answered this, how are we accounting for the massive growth of townhomes and homes? I think what you said, because in Brandywine, there's a boom, and one of the concerns is the new Brandywine Academy, before it's even built, already overpopulated. And so this review of master plan is launching next month, I think you said, that you're going to be looking at the master plan again next month. Is that part of what that is?
Okay, we're going to start with the ed specs, and then the master plan RFP itself to update the master plan is going out, yes, next month.
Yes. Okay, can you tell me what that is again? I must have misunderstood. Can you
It's
explain
okay.
to me what that is?
The ed specs were the thing that I told you defines what makes a school, right? Like.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Got it. And that's what's coming next month?
Mhm.
Okay, because that is one of the big questions I have. In the South, one of the things I do know is that the goal was consolidation, like the plan is consolidation, because a lot of our schools are kind of far and
Yeah.
rural apart, so the goal is overall consolidation. But just with the boom of houses, I just have a question in general. You don't have to ask it here, but once we get those things back, what does our plan look like, and is it the same, right? So thank you so much for that. I think overall, we need to do our work to pull together what the advocacy is going to look like. So thanks very much, and thanks for the groups that showed up today. Appreciate that. Okay, board members. Oh, there's a light. Okay, thank you so much. I'm like, no, I asked around the table. Okay. Thank you, guys. This was it's really hard to hear. We have scholars that's there, right? It's really hard to hear, and you come through tears almost. So I appreciate you saying that, and now we're all on the same page because we've been educated. Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Superintendent House to introduce items 15.1 through 15.15 under the consent agenda for board approval.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
As you indicated, 15.1 through 15.14 require board approval. These are all proclamations commemorating 15.1, starting with National School Psychology Week, 15.2 National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week, 15.3 National Family Engagement Month, 15.4 recognizing and celebrating the contributions of parent engagement assistants annual during November National Family Engagement Month, 15.5 American Education Week, 15.6 Maryland Emancipation Day, 15.7 National Apprenticeship Week, 15.8 Observation in National Native American History Month, 15.9 Proclamation for Carnegie Learning, 15.10 Proclamation for IXL Learning Contract, 15.11 Approval of the fiscal year 2024 final operating budget transfer, 15.12 A resolution for the continuation of the Foundation School Partnership for the SY 24-25 school year, 15.13 FY 25 Comprehensive Maintenance Plan, and finally 15.14 a change order, number 9, for Ellen Ochoa Middle School. That completes our proclamations, Madam Chair.
I'm going to just repeat back what I think I have. I think I could. Is this what you said? Thank you. 15.1, you read 15.1 through 15.14? Thank you so much. This seems, let me just read it back to make sure we got it. Proclamation commemorating National School Psychology Week, proclamation commemorating Homeless Awareness Month, proclamation commemorating National Family Engagement Month in Prince George's County, proclamation recognizing and celebrating the contribution of parent engagement assistants, proclamation of American Education Week, proclamation for Maryland Emancipation Day, proclamation for National Apprenticeship Week, proclamation for observation of National Native American History, fiscal year 24 final operating budget transfer, proclamation for Carnegie Learning, resolution for the continuation of the Foundation School Partnership for 24-25, proclamation for IXL Learning Contract, comprehensive maintenance plan revision for 2025 in Ochoa, Ellen Ochoa. Is that what you have too? Thank you so much, Superintendent House. Are there any questions for Superintendent House? Is everything all set? We good? Okay, thank you so much. If there are no objections, the consent agenda items 15.1 through 15.13 will be adopted. Thank you so much. They are adopted. Unfinished business, hearing none, we are moving forward. General orders, the chair recognizes superintendent. Nope. One second, I'm getting through. Is there any new business? Hearing none. Colleagues, this has been such a fruitful, honestly, I'm being serious. I really enjoyed tonight's meeting. We had a lot of great discussions, a lot of takeaways. Thank you so much. And to the public who is still here, thank you for your comments tonight. To the public watching, we appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you in the future. There being no further business, the time is now 10:41 p.m. and the October 24th, 2024 Prince George's County Board of Education meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming out. Please be safe getting home. And to our online viewers, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. Good night. Please stop the recording.